into a brand new wave, drowning out the noise that's tame. Liberty whispers through the brave, breaking free from every chain. Nullify the rules they crave, crypto beats that pave the way. Anarchy with minds that's safe, algorithms new dawn today. Out of bounds and out of sight, building futures pure and bright. Escape the grip and win the fight. Welcome into the legacy ride. Beyond control we take a stand, casting off the ardent brand. Freedom flowing through our hands, revolution's our command. Decentralize the way we plan, all together we expand. Breaking shackles for the clan, in this journey we're unpanned. Out of bounds and out of sight, building futures pure and bright. Escape the grip and win the fight. Welcome into the legacy ride.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of every age, it's time for part 2 with Greg Lang. Welcome to the world of Law Zero.
To answer your question, it was AI.
Good. It's good to know.
Actually,
Whatever
yeah.
AI, or actually, I guess whatever artists or primitives they put into the training set, or whatever they did when they trained it, man. That song I said in the chat, but I got to tell everybody that it's very sitting in a chair in front of a streaming camera, butt danceable.
It is. He dances all the time too, Andrew.
I do.
Yeah.
It's very
Like,
fun.
The intro was Andrew.
You can make an updated version of it by just screen recording people in the lobby of these live streams, because I can't help but sit here and do, like, I'm doing stuff like this. You know.
Oh, we missed our mark.
fine.
We need to start doing that now.
Yep.
All right.
We need to
DLC,
start
here
doing
I
that
come.
now.
Yeah.
No,
So
there's other
People don't
options.
use the stage actions enough when it comes to these boxes, man. We have lots of cool toys to play with, and nobody
Hey,
ever's
what's going on?
like. Anyway,
welcome, Valkyrie. It has been a minute. Thank you for joining.
yes, thank you for joining.
So, but yeah,
Cool.
the intro.
So,
the intro.
I remember
into
I
Law
gave
Zero.
everybody like a weird homework thing at the end of World Blockchain Roundtable yesterday. You guys remember what we thought we might follow back up on?
Well, you were saying that one thing is real, one thing's fake, and then one thing's kind of up in the air. I think. if I
Right,
remember
exactly,
correctly.
the mystery. So did you have a guess at which thing didn't happen, or which things didn't happen and which things did?
I mean,
They
that
all
was a long
happened,
conversation.
Actually, I was full of shit. I was just trying to hook people from the World Blockchain Roundtable audience with the mystery into watching us today. So I hope it worked. If you're there, sorry for the punk. It's worth it.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Anyways, if you haven't done the homework, everybody, go to last week's episode, Weekly Legacy, episode 30. Get the drift of it. You can even come back here. We may be live, but you can always come back. You can always
Right.
come back. But otherwise, if you're for those watching live, we always love it. That's you. But it's there in the archive. Go forth and share it with your friends, family, online friends, community, religious people.
So you guys have both read it, right? Like, or parts of it.
I listened to the whole thing. Yeah.
Loves it. Yeah, I listened to it. I read a little bit of. Well, I read the first couple chapters, and then I realized I just can't read as good as I used to anymore. So I listened to it. So, but that's what's great about listening. It goes deep into your conscious, in my opinion, if you just let it flow.
Agreed. Well, and the way that the human mind anchors memory, like I don't know, have you guys ever played around with memory palaces?
No,
I have not.
This is a fun. So we can build a basic memory, and actually, let's do this. This could be cool. Like, hey, audience, guess what? You guys just got like a thing that somebody had to pay money for that I learned it from once. So the trick to memory is that we associate things very specifically with visual, mental, emotional triggers. The more vivid the trigger, the more likely that memory is to easily anchor. So if I gave you a list of 5 words right now, let's say chair, camera, butt, dance, artist, no. Right? If you try to repeat those words back to me right now, you're not going to.
Are you giving me your private? Are you giving me the first 3 passcode words for your private key?
No, that was literally reading random words out of our private chat about the butt dance. That was literally most of the butt danceable comment. Well, and the one before that, who made this song for you, right? Song, artist, whatever. So if you want to remember that list exactly in one pass, how do you tell it to yourself? And the way that you do this is you tell a story. And the basic principle is the memory trail. And when you build a memory palace, the goal is to take your memory trail into the palace and look around, right? So you start with the memory trail. And memory trail is a great start in the morning. So your alarm goes off and it's playing a song. And the song is repeating the word artist over and over and over again in a shrill voice that sounds like Gilbert Godfrey has stubbed his toe in the movie Problem Child. And it's so startling to you that you turn on your streaming camera immediately. Streaming camera. And you start doing a butt dance. So, give me the list of words that I was talking about.
Oh, man.
Song, artist, streaming camera, butt dance.
Come on, Andrew.
Right?
I'm sorry. I got brain fog. It's a little hard for me to remember things sometimes.
The key is you have to give yourself a really vivid memory trigger to the thing specifically that you're trying to recall. And if you do that, like tomorrow, you'll fucking remember that word list because of the memory trail we just made, guys.
Well, that's sort of like how me and my buddy, also named Zach, everybody, we would train our mind because we're big John Wayne fans. So like we'd say "Howdy Pilgrim," and then it just triggered. And then we made like a story, like a fictitious story, just going back and forth with each other between John Wayne and Poncho. But he did an excellent, like just John Wayne mock-up. And he would do like a little stupid, silly story with John Wayne and Poncho Villa, and then he would go off the rails and be like, "Well, Poncho, where is your daughter there, Pilgrim?" And then we just
Happy Thanksgiving, Pilgrim.
Yeah, Happy Thanksgiving, Pilgrim.
Hi, Lisa.
So, morning, Lisa.
This is literally the hack that makes Family Guy work, right? Cutaways are just memory trails for the audience. So if you use the and the amazing thing about them is actually what you'll discover about how much you can use them in parallel. It's unlimited. You can have as many of these as you have time to tell yourself the story from the beginning to end.
Right.
And if you're willing to be patient, you can build a memory trail that is organized in a loop, which is the memory palace, so that you can go through the shelves of your memory and use this technique at scale without getting disorganized.
Well,
Um,
that's how the human mind really works. I mean, the more you remember, the more it was very passionate for you
yeah,
during your day. So if you're able to draw in a story, then re-envision it in a actual dream during your REM cycle, you're probably going to remember it for the rest of your life. So,
yeah, yeah. You can. I mean, and that's the awesome thing, right? The weird thing about this thing. Did you guys ever read the book that gave us Silence of the Lambs?
No.
mm-mm.
If you read the story of Hannibal Lecter, one of the very first things that's revealed is that he has been using this technique for a lifetime. Um, and it describes his memory palace. And that was the first time I ever encountered it, but it didn't explain like how it worked. I was like, I just thought they made a guy with superpowers. And then like 20 years later, right, I'm on the internet. I'm like, I see this thing,
Right.
and I tried it and started getting addicted to doing it. Right, like
Mhm.
if you start your day with a memory trail, you'll end up with a memory palace. So uh, I started doing that maybe like, I don't know, 10 years ago. Uh, it's made it easier to organize memory. I highly recommend.
I
It
mean, it
does.
Anyway,
It
sounds.
sorry to go on a
does.
segue there.
Yeah,
I just feel like this is a
no,
useful
it's
thing to share with
fine.
people.
Mhm.
It's fine. I mean, personally, it
It's fun to
sounds
do
kind of
too
like
because you make weird images up. Like it makes you more creative.
right. I mean, like on a person-to-person interaction, it sounds like if you know somebody's psychology and then you find somebody that mimics it very closely, you could just basically transfer from that one person to the next person.
Yeah.
And to go off of this question, so we need a visual cue to match with the word essentially. I mean, it
Like the
kind of
word essentially,
implies
as in is the word essentially the object of the sentence, or are we talking about the
like
word? Or we're talking
essentially,
about the
yeah,
word. Sorry,
just the
I'm just having a
word, like to
confusion of.
match with the word that we're trying to think of. So,
I just
yeah,
meant, is this the
actually,
word
can
capital
you?
or the word? Just like, are we talking about the word essentially? Or are we talking about the
Hmm.
word in its essential
Hmm.
nature? That's the only
Yeah.
question I have.
So, I mean, it could correlate to like the ink block scenario with psychology, like with the where
Oh,
what do you see here? But
yeah,
can you
it's to map
explain
out
what?
my day. It's literally
Yeah.
to map out my day. What are the five
Hmm.
most important things that I have to remember so that I don't miss out on something that's important for me to do? Right.
Right.
Hmm.
Like
And
for instance, I'm responsible to my team at Ribbit to do certain things reliably, and so that they can depend
yep.
on me without having to check. And so I'll go through like, so I encountered Beth, my friend, and she's wearing a hat with a thing that she really needs me to remember written on it, and it's flashing, and there are explosions, and all of a sudden it flies off like a rocket. And Beth says, "What do you know? It's going to get done today." And I move on to the next one, right? Like it
Hmm.
if I tell myself that story when I wake up, and it includes things like retiring things from the list of to-dos into things that I might need to remember later, um, it helps me anchor my day. So, and it doesn't have to be like, I started off doing this with like, remember to brush my teeth uh, for 2 whole minutes, because you don't want to end up back at the dentist like you
Right.
will,
Hmm.
like you were when you decided to add this to the memory trail. Those sorts of things.
Hmm.
It doesn't have to be a big thing. Just start with two. Like I want to remember to adopt this new habit by taking this simple action at noon every day. Start with that one, and then like something that you always do. Forget. Like check the mail. Did I pay the electricity? Check. Did I pay the electricity bill? Whatever. Something simple.
Right.
Hmm.
That's where you start. And if you start with the simplest example, then you make sure you start. And making sure you start is the only part that you need to get right in order for it to just become useful. And once it's useful,
Hmm.
you'll just do it because you like it. So
Well, that's sort of like what I'm doing now. Like
that answer your
this
question.
past
I hope
week.
that was cool.
Yeah, I hope it does. But it does. It sounds like right now, like I decided to start a secondary channel for myself that's just daily gospel readings and reflections. And if it reaches anybody, it reaches. That's awesome. If not, it's
That's a
kind of
great thing
a
just
little
to
bit for me.
systematize with the memory trail.
Yeah, yeah. Every
Remember the
day
lesson
I'm
of
reading.
this.
Yep.
If you want to remember the lesson, and make sure you live it, then that's a good thing for a memory trail.
Read it and reflect on it, and then honestly, now it's on the internet, so
Yeah.
you could go rewatch yourself too.
Right. Say
But, I mean,
it like you might say a
Mhm.
prayer.
yeah.
And it'll just become habit. And then just like with prayer, you get the benefits.
Mhm.
And they just the benefits begin to make it a habit that you would never quit.
hmm
Right.
So how does how would this all apply to? Because it sounds like it would. How would this apply to the basilic effect then? Because
yeah. Well, I never would have been able to organize the ideas for the basilisk effect without having learned this trick. Because a lot of the ideas came from like before the magic of AI came about, right? Like once I could offload, it's actually gotten a lot easier to write and organize. You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Glad to be of value. Organizing ideas in a book is a really hard thing to do. Like if you want to write a book, if you have an idea, 'cause actually I guarantee you that there's got to be at least one other person that we have never met in the audience right now that has an idea for a book that they actually should fucking write. You know, that
I'm
was the
sure.
hardest part. The hardest part was way back in the day to decide that I should fucking write a book, that I have a reason to put something out there that isn't just my own vanity.
Right.
That the world will actually benefit from if they have a chance to engage with it. What you have to say is worthwhile. There is somebody right now with a worthwhile book in them that's not sure if they should write it right now. Step one is decide that, and then step two is structure the damn thing. And that is impossibly hard compared to saying it.
I can tell you one person right now that should be writing a book right now, and he's in the opposite corner below me.
I think both you guys should be right. I think everybody should try to write a book. I think everybody.
We should all. Honestly, I agree. But I mean, Andrew, with his wicked know-how and his observation, his obsession with the enneagram,
and his authorial look,
yeah.
like you have an authorial air, man. You could literally you would walk into the room, go up to the podium for your book reading, and people be like, "That's the guy." They wouldn't mistake you for the sound tech.
Well, really, it's like in the Dark Knight movie, right? They said some people just do it just for the challenge and just to say that they could do it. Other people want to make a name. I just do it for the fun of it. I don't want to make anything out of it.
Oh yeah.
You know.
Well,
but another thing, he was talking about the memory palace, right?
Yeah.
Could this be like a? Okay, it's going to sound a little weird. You remember that like a long time ago, the Catcher in the Rye book, how there's somebody wouldn't said that the book told them to kill them or whatever.
So yeah,
could that be? It's like the programming of the subconscious mind.
Yeah. Well, if you don't program your subconscious mind yourself, then somebody else will do it for you. You know, whether that somebody else is. So if you think about life as kind of just like a sensor that adapts, right? Like we're going through the world, and the reason this trick works is because the things that our brains adapted to remember were novelty, right? Like a change in our environment that's dramatic is more likely to remain in our memory. And that's the adaptive evolution of memory that makes it actually awesome. Yeah, I'd love to read Andrew's book too. I'm serious. If you wrote a book, you wouldn't have to ask me to read it. I'd be asking you for it.
Thank you.
You know?
Same. I wouldn't be asking. I'd be giving you money.
No, I'd pay. Right. I would buy Andrew's book. Though I strongly value and highly recommend, after doing it, the path of giving it away without condition.
To give it away, because knowledge is everything.
Well, if you want your ideas to make you money, sell them. If you want your ideas to have impact, give them away.
It'll be up on my Go for Sir next week.
Yeah, I mean, and because the truth is, it's not just giving them away, right? If you do it for free, by the way, you're not doing it for free. It's not like I'm done.
Right.
The author's job, if they care about getting their ideas out there, is to promote their book, right? To give people a reason to want to read it, which has been a stumbling exercise for me so far. I literally started off with like the dumbest, simplest one I could think of, which is read my book, right?
Yeah.
And it's evolved to sort of what we're doing right here. And I immediately got over the salesman's guilt. By the way, everybody get over your salesman's guilt, please. The world, in fact, operates off of a positive sum game system. And if you feel guilty about selling something, it's because you're falling into some assumption based on the zero sum fallacy, right?
Mhm.
You benefiting is of negative benefit to whoever you're trading with, and so you have to apologize for asking to sell them something useful. False.
Right.
Mhm.
You're
But in
you're growing
reality,
wealth
I
together.
mean, yeah, you're giving something that
You have
they
something
might
they
need,
want,
or
then
they need or want. Yeah,
yeah,
and
you have
then
something
you're
you
getting
can
a
provide
benefit. You're
value.
making money.
You can provide value
So,
if you can get people to pay for what you're offering, and if there's something worth paying
hmm
for, how are they going to know about it if you don't tell them?
hmm
Right? Like,
Right.
you don't want to be an asshole about selling, but that's a different thing from being ashamed to ask for money for what you do, right? Because what you do can have big value when you have an idea that you condense to a book, because it really is
hmm
an exercise in organizing your thinking. That's the thing I discovered about Law Zero when
yeah,
I was writing it, is that the hardest part wasn't the lesson that I had taken from me, or from all the thought that went into it. It was, how do I convey that lesson? And that part requires the structure to be right,
hmm
because nobody knows what I don't know.
Yeah.
Or sorry, nobody knows what I know, specifically what I'm thinking, right? Like, I have to get it out of my head, and you have to be able to unpack it yourself and get to where I'm going. And if it's a good book, then it doesn't force the reader or cheat the reader into the conclusion. It takes you, it trusts you to decide where you will take it. And Law Zero is kind of an extreme example of that, because in the epilogue, I explicitly open source its ideas and ask people to break and take and remake. Because the point of this isn't, for me anyway, anything less than existential. We're in a dangerous period in civilization right now, and our choices are going to matter which side of extinction or eternity we end up on.
Yeah.
Like, we
hmm
have a chance as a species, I think, to outlive the heat death of the universe if we put our minds to it.
I mean,
And that may be, in fact, our divine calling, if you want to think of it that way. Um,
to balance, to find a balance between what is material and what is immaterial.
yeah, there's a
In
link, I
my,
think, between the divine and entropy.
hmm
My beliefs on entropy are weird, actually. This is probably relevant to the book tangentially, because I didn't talk about it in there, but its assumptions are embedded.
hmm
What do you guys think about entropy? What are your thoughts on entropy?
I'll
I
let
mean,
you answer, Andrew.
I think it definitely has its benefits. I mean,
Entropy in the sense of physics, right? I don't
yeah.
mean like
hmm
entropy as in the idea of decay in closed systems in the toy experiment sense. I mean like the heat death of the universe sense.
And
I
the
mean,
expansion of gravitating towards having some sort of purpose, or
Well, no, the
expanding
whimper that
upon,
ends the universe, according to the
or
best telescopes and theory and math that we've got,
hmm,
I mean,
is that ultimately the amount of useful work that can be done will decay below the level of entropy, or decay to the level of entropy where no information can any longer be organized, and everything is static because there are no energy differentials to exploit to do meaningful work. The whole thing will
I mean,
come
it
to
makes,
equilibrium, right? Heat dissipates, and so
hmm
eventually it will all dissipate into heat. Matter
I
will
mean,
collapse.
it makes, it
The
makes
electrons
sense.
will slow down and just dissipate, right? Like the whole universe will end in fuzz.
Hmm.
Um,
I was just, I
or
was coming to a, I was using
or
it on a
before then,
philosophical moment, but,
right?
but,
So there's a line we cross, right, in the future, far future of the
hmm
universe, when we get to this point where no more meaningful work can be done. And then there's another line. Let's say if our line for meaningful work, no more meaningful work be done, is here on the timeline. This is the end of everything.
hmm
Its eternity sucks. It's fuzz after that, because we can't do anything but sit there and be fuzzy, right? There's a point here, or here, or here, where the amount of meaningful work left that can be done, and the amount of meaningful work it would take to do something that would subvert the process. Like, let's say, manufacture a black hole, rip open a hole in space-time, create a universe with friendlier entropy properties, and dump everything we care about from this one into that one before the end.
hmm
you can't
Well,
contract
it makes,
forever.
yeah,
Right.
it makes
Well, no, I
sense
mean,
because to every beginning is an end. So
but we have trillions of years to figure that out if we can get past like 3
exactly,
evolutionary checkpoints, right?
yeah,
We first have to solve the red giant shit, right? We have to save
Hmm.
the earth from the fact that the sun will burn out. I think we should figure out how to refuel the sun. We have time, right?
And I think we can. I mean,
And then
the
the
answer's out there.
second one is gamma ray bursts, right? We have to be gamma
Hmm.
ray burst resilient. And when I say we, I mean we as the people who are stewards of life. Right
Yeah.
now, only known intelligent living thing on Earth is the only intelligent living thing in the universe.
And that's where, like, as you said, stewards of life, like that's where I've been diving a little bit more into distributist ideology on the economical and market side of things. You can
Yeah.
apply that to the sciences, you can apply it to philosophy, because that's essentially all we're here to steward creation in
Yeah.
order to maintain it for the next generation. You don't have to be religious to understand that you want to build a legacy so
Right.
that your children and your children's children, children's children have a
Right.
place to live and sustain and be able to be fulfilled. So,
Right. We are talking about the protective role of man that's implied by
mm-hmm,
the mastery that is imparted to us. Right. The universe has no way to understand that it exists without humans, as far as
mm-hmm,
we know. Right. Whatever consciousness is, which is an interesting question, right? And I have divergent views on what that is too. But setting that aside, right? Like we're conscious, and consciousness, whatever it is awareness of what's going on around you.
Yeah.
It couldn't be anything else because you're sitting in your own freaking head, giving proof to that right now, wherever you are, right? Looking out into your
mm-hmm.
senses, that is true. It answers itself. So what do we
For
do with
every,
that?
yeah,
What do we do
we
with
keep
that?
asking
Do we
questions.
attribute that to the topography of reality, or do we
Mm-hmm,
attribute that to something more, right? And that's where my spirituality hooks into my my cosmology is at that juncture right there.
well, yeah,
That's to me where the rubber meets the road when it comes to the divine acting on the material. It comes through our minds.
and that's where I look at it too. We have to continue to explore and investigate, and then take that and apply to it real world tangible practices,
Right.
so we can find solutions. If we don't
Yeah.
do that, then where are we
Well,
at?
then
Well,
life
we're
doesn't survive the universe,
hmm,
and we don't know
yeah,
what the stakes are of that. But right now, we're probably reasonable to assume that no one else is coming to help, right? Like
hmm,
Right.
that taking care of ourselves, that our mandate here is to spread life to the ends of the universe and outside of time if we can, right? To protect it.
hmm,
And we know that because of entropy, because human beings are agents of it and born of it.
hmm,
Entropy is the math equation that makes sure humans exist. And people
hmm,
say that's crazy because they think of entropy as the thing they fight. You know,
Right.
the people who build systems recognize that entropy is what collapses them, what makes them brittle. And that's
hmm.
what Law Zero is about, is how the fighting of entropy creates monsters.
I mean, it
Everything's got
takes
a shelf
empathy.
life.
Hmm.
Yeah,
I
we
mean,
have to
throughout
learn to
any
surf
collapse.
entropy instead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we can go through just history, just on the basic surface level. Like, out of every collapse, like every collapsed civilization comes a new civilization that has to be built from the ground up. So why
Right.
can't we apply that physically to the universe? Like, which
We have
we
to.
should be able to.
We have
We
to
have
if we
to,
wish
yeah.
our legacy to be anything more than the shell of a crumbled civilization, which I
Yeah.
guarantee you, when Fermi's paradox is fully understood, when we survive this,
Hmm.
because we will, by the way, um, if you don't believe in us as a species, then I feel like you have a blind faith and pessimism that's
Hmm.
misplaced. Because if you look around at the world, it's got a lot of problems that we see, and
Yeah.
humans are geared to look at problems, right? We are.
Hmm.
It's a survival trait. Intelligence probably couldn't have manifested without that being part of our prior DNA baseline, right? If we weren't
Hmm.
optimizing for that.
It's almost like source code.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. But the problem with that is what it does to the way that we make decision heuristics. right? It's not the way that we make decisions are by heuristic, by the way. I don't know if people are familiar with the difference between people who say that heuristic decision making dominates and rational decision making dominates, right? Heuristics are the things that make us decide things wrongly on our biases or rightly on our biases 99.99% of the time. We just never talk about that 99.99% of the time where our heuristics actually work to do what they're supposed to. You know, we have annoyances in our days. We don't have to spend them in a forest looking for enough food to not starve tomorrow. So that, or that our children don't starve tomorrow. That's not our world. Humans are better than that.
It used to be before we were born.
Right. And the difference between where we are now in all the good ways and where we were then in all of the bad ways is a testament to the human ingenuity, the human spirit. The thing that you can trust about what we're capable of is the difference between this and that. And that's why I'm always optimistic about humanity, because all of the problems that we face are tiny compared to the problems of having to find enough berries to make sure your babies don't die. You know, like that is
adaptation. That's
some fucking shit. You're up against the wall. There's no payday loans for that. You know, like
no.
You find some berries if they're there, or you're dead, and so are your kids. You know, like that is the world that humans came from. That is nature at its rawest, right? You win or you die, and the cycles, the loops close on that cycle every moment. It's
like a slope.
You're walking through the forest, and you either spot that tiger and eat him for dinner, or he's fucking eating you, right? Yeah. That is the way it is when it's the jungle, and humans have kicked ass on the front of not living like that. We've made the world good for humans. And the thing is now, like, what do we do to make sure that it stays that way? Because the lesson we've learned of growth is that there's no such thing as stasis. It's growth or decline. So how do we grow infinite? And the only way to do that is out. We have to go to space.
Andrew, rebuttal or answer or concern or a freak out? You can freak out if you want.
I'll just have an existential crisis in the lobby. I'll see you later.
Did I say something?
No.
Inadvertently controversial?
I'm very black-pilled. Please talk about something very positive.
This is meant to be a white pill. That's the thing.
I know.
You can believe in fucking humanity. You can believe in
through every
capacity to solve
through every little through every black pill that you're given. There's always a white pill. There's always something positive out of life. At least that's how I'm living my life.
Yep. I always want to say they're like all combo treatments, right? Like it's always a compound you're getting. You're getting a chemical cocktail. There's no black pill and white pill. There's
all. You're just gonna eat all of them.
There are black metabolites hooked to white delivery bases, and they're blended into time release that have a little bit of both in them. You know, like.
Yeah.
Well, it's just like the meme. It's just like the meme where they use from the Matrix, where Morpheus says, "Here's the red pill, here's the blue pill," and Neo takes all of them. Did you just take all of them? Did you just take both? Yes.
I just take both pills.
I want to live in my head, but I also want to understand reality.
Right. Well, the interesting thing is the blue pill probably would have just been a sedative, right? He would have woken up in his bed like he woke up from getting whatever that thing he was put into him.
Oh yeah. Like what if the Matrix? What if him taking
if he took both, he might just pass out. They probably would have had an easier time getting him out if they didn't have to deal with him like moving around and shit. What's
problem?
Shut up. It's a medical procedure.
What if this is what I think about in the Matrix though when watching it. Like, what if the reality actually was in the Matrix? And the Matrix and reality was actually where they were.
None of them were in base reality. They made that clear in the third one, right? So or the second one. It was the second one where they had Neo come out of the thing, hold his hand up in the air, and pass out after knocking down 2 sentinels. He modified code in what they were presuming was base reality. At that point, they all should have just been like, well, fuck, we need to figure out how to get out of this Matrix.
Yeah. So it's like
You
it's
know, 'cause
basically
there's no
one matrix
reason
out of another.
that they couldn't create like a story loop for people who figure out that they're in the Matrix. That just looks
Mm-hmm.
like you wake up from the Matrix and you go into another partition of the Matrix that they also control. Pretend
Yeah.
like you're having a fight, but you never come out of the pod, right? They just shut you over to feeling to the coming out of the pod simulation, and the game takes off from there in the new instance. There's no way to
Mm-hmm.
know. Actually, you know how like people give shit to Elon for saying that simulation theory is certain, like that
Mm-hmm.
he said it was mathematically certain. Have you ever unpacked it?
I've never unpacked it, but I understand where he's
Do you
coming
just want to
from
unpack
there.
it? It's kind of interesting.
So
I think the
let's
audience might like
unpack it
this.
because honestly, I could relate to Elon and the simulation theory idea, and then just video games give you a little Easter egg to it. Like
Right.
Red Dead Redemption, you have
Well,
the Mad Preacher, and the Mad Preacher is basically giving you the simple form of simulation theory because you're on an open world dome, right?
Yeah.
He knows
and
it,
video
and
games could very
Rockstar's
easily be
giving you
like
that
our
scene,
cargo
like,
cult, you know? Right? Video
hmm
games can be our cargo cult, but I actually think they're the
yeah,
proof.
hmm
Because the idea that, or the logical process that Elon's following when he says it's mathematically certain,
hmm
is this. If we live in a universe right now that is capable of producing high fidelity simulations of our ancestors, then it is possible for such a thing to be made within the parameters of any universe we might inhabit, whether it's a simulated one that also had that capability and so could simulate it, or it's us at base reality simulating it. The problem is that means the simulation situation is recursive, right? If you simulate a civilization that can build simulations, then you have to be able to simulate them simulating. And those simulations have to be able to simulate them simulating them simulating, right? All the way down. It's turtles all the way down, in fact. And it's all those turtles, when you start to count those infinite turtles, that makes you realize that the question you have to ask in our reality is it possible to make a detailed simulation of our ancestors that would permit them to simulate their ancestors? And the answer is yes. We could definitely build that. We have video games that look
hmm
like that already, and they're getting closer to it every day,
yeah,
right? So
Yeah.
that means that universe capability is in the stack of universes at base reality that started this whole thing. But
Right.
because of the long trail of turtles all the way down, the odds are that our experience is being lived in one of the turtles, not in base reality, because there's only one of those. And there are an infinite number of recursive simulated universes once you give the possibility that simulation theory can happen in the universe. Once you know it can happen, the odds are that you're not the one starting it just because of the number of possible people who started it
Yeah.
that came before you. Right? We could be in a seventh layer simulation.
hmm
You
Well,
know,
it also look at history with the mythos, the mythologies, and the many gods from polytheistic to spirituality and dimensional religions to Judaism to Christianity and its
right?
expansion towards the Trinity, and then just look at the Trinity, three persons, one God. But
Mhm.
what if we're looking at it wrong, and God is a universal consciousness beam of infantality.
Like a potential, like a
Yeah,
potentiality field, and the
yeah,
Trinity is really more like superposition plus.
yeah.
Yeah,
Because I mean,
right.
in the Christian sense, especially, and they really apply this on the Eastern Catholic or the Greek Orthodox. You
Well,
have the
and
emphasis of
the heretics that followed Chardon.
oh yeah, but you have
That's
this
guilty.
you have the emphasis of theosis, which is
Yeah.
being exalted to God's status. So what if, I mean, what if that's trying to explain the realities that we live in within interdimensional stimulation theory?
Right. Right.
So,
But setting that aside, the fact that you can ask that question of it gives proof to the fact that we could have that level of simulation here. And
we could.
so, because of that, if you had to pick out of all of the infinite number of possible futures, right? If you look at the quantum
Hmm.
foam, and if you look at the state of the spin foam, and you go over here in this possibility land, is one example of a place where this is simulated 1,500 layers down. And here's another example where it's 1499, and then there's one out there at a millionth layer, 10
Hmm.
millionth layer of simulation. The number of recursions that could happen in this process are infinite. That means there is an
Hmm.
approaching infinity probability that we aren't in base reality, because if we can simulate, we either live in a simulation or are in base reality, right? And
Yeah.
if we can assume that we could live in a simulation, then we have to assume the probability is astoundingly high that we must.
I
And
mean,
that's the logic. The
and we
logic
can
is,
go
if
back.
simulations exist, we're almost certainly not
Yeah.
the first people to do it.
Yeah, and it you can literally go back to like the Bible and Genesis and the fall within the Garden of
Mm-hmm.
Eden and sit and start thinking like, wait a second, maybe the Garden of Eden is the base reality, and then
Right.
after the temptation in the garden where Eve took the apple from the serpent and
Yeah.
then get fed it to Adam, it split us into another reality of a fallen world, and then we just continue to completely fall ourselves, and we've entered
Right.
into another
Right.
reality, and we're just in this inner web.
We manifest a self-fulfilling prophecy because all we're good at
Yeah,
doing is accelerating cascades of
yeah.
forward activity, right? Like that's
Hmm.
life is good at organizing energy so that it can persist to organize energy, right?
Hmm.
This is what makes it entropy's agent, because the process of organizing it creates more entropy as you go, right? So
Hmm.
the more organized work we're doing, the faster the heat death approaches. There's only so much delta V that we've got in terms of useful work before we cross that line where if we don't have the solution, then the story
Hmm.
ends there.
Yeah.
Um, and I always try to look at every problem I dedicate myself to solving on that front, right? That's a big part of why I think Law Zero is important, because if humanity is to do what I think it's here to do, then it needs to be prepared to buckle down for the long haul and stay, either until the curtain falls or they figure out how to rewrite the ending.
Hmm.
If there is a mission to our lives, if there is a purpose, I think that that's what it's got to be. Because, well, I mean, I'm a Shardian heretic, so I think the point of humanity is to become.
Yeah.
Andrew, you got anything to
Well,
add?
I
You're
mean, just
thinking
all the
down
stuff
there.
you guys talked about. Like, I don't know. I don't know how to exactly approach this, but like,
Oh,
trans,
approach it through
trans,
psychology, the lens
right?
of psychology. I know you got it.
Like transmigration, right? That's something that's kind of come and gone in different schools and
Hmm.
stuff like that. How do these ideas survive and maintain their position and continuously be brought up?
Don't know, right? That's the
Yeah,
thing, is we don't know that at all. Or the idea that there is even a possible way to rip our way out of this reality and situate ourselves in a new one with more favorable variables to the preservation of life and its flourishing. Um, you know, we can't see that path. We have to believe in it or not.
yeah,
It's just a matter of what you choose to believe, I guess, at that point. And to me, that choice is something that I make on a principle that I can't undo, right? Like it's a drive.
yeah. It's
At this
passing the
point, I
torch.
I just I committed to it a long time ago, to this, and I'm not going to give it. I'm not going to give it up. If I have kids, I want them to see examples around them that demonstrate people not yielding their convictions to the hardness of the world. You know, uh,
Yeah,
so yeah, people are always going to think that humanity is going to end in my face, and they're going to hate the fact that I think that it's going to, rise to the best it can be in their face real hard, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with being an obstinate optimist, I guess.
I mean that's the cost of being brutally honest, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's I just think there's so much more capacity in people than they are willing to admit. I think people actually have a lot more magic at their fingertips than they allow themselves.
And that's why I'm a Thomist, because I do a lot of thinking, and you can't really distinguish what this life is really about or what your purpose is, but you can always counteract and put a balance to it and be like, okay, well, this is where I want to achieve. So there's obviously an element of what I need to do. There's certain virtues that I need to collect, and we're on this path to put some good in this world in some capacity or find some type of good, but we're in a whole lot of hurt because we keep on like repeating ourselves with all this bad. Like, where do we find the balance? And then so
I think we have to find the breadth, really. It's not that we
Mhm.
can't solve problems and that the world doesn't get better. It's that
Mhm.
we don't talk about solved problems because there's no use in that. And there's a hell of a lot of disutility in ignoring important problems.
Mhm.
Well, the more problems you solve, the more questions you produce
Right.
too. And that's
But also,
another
do we
Level
example
of one.
psychologically turn
all zero.
ourselves?
Two.
Yeah, exactly. Do we psychologically turn ourselves into hammers by always looking for nails to hit?
Right.
Mhm.
That's an interesting question.
Whereas maybe we shouldn't be looking for nails to hit. Maybe we should be the screwdriver, and we
Well,
looking for the screw to
what we
either
should be
unscrew
doing,
or screw.
what we should be doing is recognizing a piece of advice that we use in conversation with others is useful in conversation with reality. You have two ears and one mouth is the old joke, right? That every
Mhm.
mom loves to say when their son is talking too much, like he never learned not to do. Um,
Mhm.
the thing we also have are two eyes and one mouth, and two nostrils and one mouth, and
Mhm.
billions of sensors on our skin and one mouth, right? Our vocal cords are amazing. We overuse them.
Yeah.
We need to learn to quietly listen and watch for long periods of time to understand. Like
Being detached.
people. If I saw people succeeding at appropriating wealth and turning it into goodness, turning it into virtue and beauty and success and civilization and light, if I saw that happening, I would have a hard time arguing against the appropriative mode. The interventionists' worldview would be proving itself right because the more they took and gave away to their vision of what the reality should be, what the plan should be, the better things would work. But we've seen the opposite. In fact, we have the starkest historical example in history, right? If you want to look at the shadow of a really nasty basilisk that I haven't mapped all the way yet, but I'm working on mapping. Um, the really scary one is the one that killed the arc of progress that we saw in terms of standards of living rise following the Industrial Revolution. I
Mhm.
mean, have you ever seen that graph where they show like things like GDP or hours worked or all this stuff when we transition from being agrarian, basically
Mhm.
feudalists, post-colonial feudalists to
Mhm.
industrialization and what it brought to the world in terms of just like improvement. Like people don't think about
Yeah.
it, but like
Oh, there's a
freaking
big difference.
the greatest medieval emperor, Alexander the Great himself, never had the luxury of everyone who can afford a microwave, a fucking smartphone, and a refrigerator,
Mhm.
air
Right.
conditioning, heat, uh, shelter that doesn't fall over, comfort.
Mhm.
The ability to give a damn about anything other than survival was a luxury that barely kings had once upon a time.
I mean,
Not that long
without
ago. We haven't changed
with
genetically
cooling.
in any way, but our industrial revolution started a rocket. And what
Mhm.
happened, I think, isn't that it petered out and that people became frustrated with progress. I think the
Mhm.
parasite got greedy and it started to
Yeah.
Oh
cripple the
man.
thing. And I think it hit a
Well,
tipping
we
point about
developed.
about that time that looks like the shadow of a really goddamn big institution meant to perpetuate this parasitism coming online. And that's what I see as the shadow of this monster basilisk that I've been trying to unpack. How did we get this monster started at the beginning? It started at the Articles of Confederation and before. It started in England. It started before that. It started with Rome. It started before then, right? Like,
Yeah.
what is this pattern? It seems like it's been haunting us for some time. And
Momentum
I
builds
think that-
strength, and strength builds more momentum.
yeah, I feel like Law Zero is my attempt to like get to the center of that question.
Yeah. And what was I gonna say? Oh, we the further that we begin to evolve away from the old, we're so, as Lisa said earlier, reactive, not proactive. As reactive as we are to new things to try to expand, we devolve because we're too busy building upon appetites. We create appetites, and then through those appetites, we exploit and use up resources to the point where we have to go
No.
backwards. It seems
That seems
and
kind
in
of
reality,
right? Doesn't that
yeah.
sound a little bit supply side?
Oh yeah,
Like-
it's big time supply side. We're
Right.
focusing
I mean,
too much on excess rather than demand, and
right.
realizing
Demand is what drives production. If we
Yeah.
want things to change on the production side, then we have to want different things.
It's the
Mhm.
Peter principle. You
Well,
rise
I
to your
mean-
level of incompetence.
Right. But also we want, right? As a species, human beings are uncomfortable with want. We invented a whole category called need, where we justify wants as necessary, just to get around the cognitive dissonance of our discomfort with our drivenness to
Mhm.
want.
Right.
But in
and-
reality, we want
Well, and-
because
and-
we
and
want
need-
food, we want
Need as a
shelter.
concept is at the core of rights, right?
Hmm.
You know, rights are to me an acknowledgement that human beings are human beings and thus have dignity,
Mhm.
and a sense of their own dignity. That's the other. Have you ever met a human being who didn't have a sense of their own dignity as a human being, regardless of whether or not they could define what makes a human being have dignity?
Yes, I've met many of people that think they're worthless.
Right, but they
Yeah.
think they're worthless because of the pathos of modernity. That's to me the core of the
Like,
problem.
So it's
Right?
very
It's
positive, and they're thinking,
it's that
which is
we
negative.
have all of these amazing people around us
Mhm.
every fucking day. That everybody in this audience is one of them. Like
Mhm.
every one of us, a potential Alexander. There's no difference between us and people like that, other than what happened in history versus what didn't. It could have just as well been the guy standing next to him.
Like I'll show you an example
And the
of
difference between an Alexander and most people is that most people don't have the audacity to believe in themselves
to
that much.
stand. I'll give you an example of just how good and great, or just how great people are in anything and everything that they do. It's just a simple fact that most people want to be with people and try to expand on that. If you don't have people, then what is the point of producing anything?
Yeah.
So, and like I went to adoration and literally just sat for an hour in front of the host last night with people that I didn't even know that were in there with me. And
Mhm.
at the end of the hour, we probably sat there and spoke because it was all silence throughout the hour, probably for like 20 minutes. And then we learned of each other. And then they ended up inviting me someday just for a get together
Yeah.
or a prayer
That's awesome.
round. I mean,
Right.
that's what people need. It's like we need people in order to articulate support for one another, in order to produce the wants that we want, that are the needs that we need.
Right.
And if we don't have
It's a-
people, what do you
Yeah.
have?
Well, I mean, and the beauty of the world is that the maths of it work out when you don't mess with it, that people naturally cooperate, right?
Mhm.
That they figure out what their gifts are because others see them in them and ask them for help. You know, that we're close
Mhm.
enough to one another to see other people's gifts expressed in them when they can't. right? Like us telling Andrew that he needs to also write a book immediately, which he does.
2 books.
Um,
You need to write 2
right?
books.
Probably more than that. You need to start with 2.
Yeah, right.
Uh,
Okay,
Explain.
here. Let me
but
let me
I
pitch a
don't think that
question.
makes you an especially special individual when it comes to humans. That's the things. I think there's probably something about every one of our audience members right now
Mm-hmm.
that when they swell up with pride, they know it's because they contribute to the world in this way, right? That's just how
Right.
people know their strengths even when they're embarrassed to brag about them or say anything positive about themselves. um,
And speaking of the book thing, before you bring up your question and your point, Andrew, to correspond, you can make a book. You can write a book. You know Katie, right? She's written a
yeah
book. She's in the
Yeah.
process of trying to get it published, and she's already starting on her 2nd book because it's going to be a series, a trilogy. She doesn't know it may end up becoming a quadrilogy, but that's her
yeah
plan. You just got to do it. As soon
that's
as you
awesome.
do it, you do it.
Right.
One
It's
Don't let
project
the
a,
at a
world
time.
preemptively demoralize you, you know.
Right.
Mhm.
Odds are, and moreover, if you try it and you fail, then then that's just an iteration. Try to learn from it
Mhm.
and do another, right? Like if Law
Yeah.
Zero doesn't end up resonating, if in a couple months I'm like, well, no one wants to talk about it anymore, and everybody who I ask about it is giving me read the room, I'm annoyed.
Mhm.
Then I'm gonna set about writing another book. I'm not gonna give up on book writing. Like
Right.
um, that's what people should try to do, because I feel like the tragedy of humanity is that it's loaded up with gifts and uh, it's unable to see that all it needs to do is start using them.
Well, the question I had for earlier was actually posed to both of you, and you can just choose one, or you can, defend it. It's entirely up to you. Uh,
Oh God.
if you have given the choice between, I was watching a video from Stefan Manu a couple weeks ago. He's talking about is ought. If you could choose between is ought argument or if then else, which one would you choose?
Me, if then else
Both
for
of you.
sure. Although I like to posit the possibility of an if then else that includes is ought.
Okay.
Situated
Oh,
in
they're playing.
superposition to one
I
another.
was
So
overthinking that.
counterfactual
I'm
is
retarded.
ought in an if then else statement. That's my answer.
Mm.
So what is it? An is ought or an if?
Counterfactual is ought binaries.
Yeah.
In
I was
if then
overthinking it
else.
because you said the way that you said it, or an
Well, he was
if
pitching
what? If by else?
if
Uh,
then else.
Yeah.
oh,
So an if then else is a
then
logic
else.
proposition.
Yeah.
Whereas you're reasoning by
Now it-
analogy when you engage in an is ought. So
Mm.
I'm positing using logic to juxtapose analogies to get to a broader
Right.
understanding.
Well,
Well, I
for
mean
the audience,
the
mine was
logical idea.
if then else.
Go.
Because
Yeah,
I
like
pose if then else, because
yeah.
that's ternary logic, right?
Well, you got to be
Uh,
of a rational mind, thinking in a more logical explanation if you're going to try to find solutions. And if it's just an
Right.
is ought, then you're basically just missing the point, in my opinion, and you're just brushing it off. Or maybe you're not brushing it off; you just don't know. But it may just
is
be
oughts are how we
fear.
grade our judgments. I feel like people tend
Yeah,
to put is oughts as an end state, but they're really kind of a means type of instrumental
better
thought
than
process.
yeah, better analogy.
That's why I
Judgment
like it.
and
That's why I like
solution.
if then else statements, because or as the containing framework, if we're going to compare is oughts in counterfactual juxtaposition, then you need to put some structure to it so that you can reach something for that, because otherwise uh, you can really get
Well,
bogged down. You can become a car alarm, I guess, if all you focus on is the hypocrisy gradient between is ought. It's easy to detect those, and they're everywhere, but to weave the existence of those into a coherent story that shares causal connection and relationship in some kind of narrative, like somebody is engaging in an is-ought mistake that is fucking up society because of this story of these is-oughts where these are, you know, you can unpack the motives of people's sort of ethos if you use the is-ought, which is great.
Yeah.
But you have to use that to get to something bigger. Otherwise, all you're going to be doing is calling out hypocrisy, and calling out hypocrisy is, well, I guess
That's what
as
leads to.
Yarvin would have said it, it's like
Mhm.
you don't aim at the hot red spots when you're trying to shoot down an airplane. That's where the armor is.
All right.
Well, that's how you
Yeah.
get. That's how it leads to dehumanization potentially, and then that's where you lead to the Nazis or the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
And we don't want
Well-
that. We want solutions.
So do
To
you guys
help-
know that the core of Law Zero is actually a work of critical theory in the sense that people mean it derisively?
I would have never guessed.
Yeah, the structure
Just
of the
from the
argument
surface, yeah.
is very structurally taking their mode of thinking and deploying it to different ends, right? Like I stripped away the ideological core and applied the analysis differently. They would see it as a perversion unless they started to like it, in which case they would call it another school of thought within the same domain. But I stripped away their tools and used them to unpack a thing that they would normally miscomprehend in a way that's designed in part to reach that audience. Like, because one of the things that helped me out of that mind space when I was trapped in it, you know, like I really went down the, like, my dog right now, his name's Loki. I've got Loki and Thor. Back then, I named my dog fucking Jacques after Derrida. Right? I was a fan because I was enamored with what you could do with the critical method that you with it. It's actually really at a mechanical level an effective way to take apart assumptions. The assumptions that the Academy pointed it out were all the left's pet causes. That's the problem with that mode of thinking. It's not the thinking itself; it's how they're misdeploying the tool.
Yeah.
It's all the weapons of the Western canon misapplied to misbegotten ends, and we need to take those weapons back. But we shouldn't put the taint of the way it's been put to use on the way of thinking, because it's quite useful. And I wanted to create something that they could read and comprehend on that level, in part because that's what got me out of there, thanks to this guy who's now dead, Richard Rorty, who reframed the entire idea of postmodernism in this idea of irony. He invented this person who becomes an ironist, and the ironist creed is you can have beliefs and you can hold truths and you can have ethics and you can believe that there is a soul or a human spirit or a divine that gives us rights or whatever, right? To get around these conundra where you can use some of the obvious logic of deconstruction to tear apart things in our civilization that must not be torn apart, like the belief that that we can be free by undoing controls on people, not by forcing them to behave a certain way. Those kinds of beliefs can be held. Like, you can be a humanist and an individualist just because, even though technically those ideas can be torn apart by a deconstructive analysis. If you want to hold an idea because you believe the world's better because of it, that's all that you need. And that was what Rorty said that got me out of it, right? So when I read Rand, I wasn't a frothing post-colonialist. I was able to open my mind to it and see its truth.
Well, that's when you can apply the enneagram to it as well, then, and start piecing together how individuals, through their communal spirit in society, act because of certain culture, as well as possibly even genetics for the most part as well.
Well, and it gets to, like, so now that you know what a basilisk effect is, like, and you know what Law Zero tells you, and if you accept that as like a thing that, okay, diagnosis confirmed, like I think this is on to something that feels like what's wrong with the world, you know? if you're sitting in the audience, you're thinking that, great. If you're sitting in the audience thinking, God, this guy's such a fucking cad, I would love to tear apart his argument, please do, honestly, and send it to me. I'll engage with you. But talking to the people who already have been converted, so to speak, to this way of thinking, don't try to stare at the problem, right? What do we do?
Yeah.
How do we beat the basilisk now that we know what it is? Right. And the answer has to be something other than talk about it as a doom that is before us. Right. We shouldn't fetishize it into a death cult. Right? It's not really at all about telling people that interventionism doesn't work. It's about saying the way that we do interventionism isn't paying attention to this feature of reality that keeps tripping us up. And we've been stubbing our toe for a couple hundred years, and we might be able to get away with it for another 20. But we got to stop stubbing our toe. Otherwise, this is just gonna, foot's gonna fall off, and the whole thing's just gonna fall over, right?
Right.
And that's what Law Zero is there to help with, right? But it's not the answer. It's an answer aimed at a problem everybody seems to want to ignore.
Well, I mean, there's money in ignoring the problem. That's a big.
It's true.
big
Well,
momentum.
that's the introduction gets into that with the feral hogs, right?
Yeah.
Literally, the feral hog industry came about because there was a feral hog eradication effort, and now those incentives have sort of become their own endogenous basilisk system of hog problem management as profit industry.
Right.
That they will guaranteed assure that those hogs never get eradicated by the fact that they are there on mission to eradicate the hogs.
I mean, you got to really think about it in the abstract. We've got what we could assume to be the source code of certain actions and behaviors.
Yeah.
And we try to work with it, but when we try to work with it, we create more basilisk effects.
Right. Well, and we also have this like assumption of need for permanent governance baked into so much shit because of it.
Yeah.
Right. Once upon a time, there was this idea that worked in public policy just like it does in private business every day. We have a checklist of things that you're capable of doing that you can to better your position. And then when you do them, they're done. Right. We used to make laws that completed a purpose. It used to be that tax at the federal level was designed to work like it does at the local level, where if you want to raise it, why is the first question you have to ask, and that why is bounded by a price, right? You want to raise taxes to pay for X, Y, or Z. Well, let's see your plan, right?
Yeah.
And if this plan works, then we get what we asked for, and if it doesn't, then it failed. Our plans are now, let's form a body to make plans,
right,
and task them with this kind of plan making.
I mean, history is littered with like.
Well, let's not hide the ball, right?
Yeah, history is littered with just case after case of attempted reform of people's behavior through the law, and it just looks silly in hindsight. It's just there's never going to be a solution that's universally accepted, because when you try to implement it, you're just creating, like I said, more basilisk effects. So,
right. Well, I mean, and it's not that we can't. That's the other thing too. Like, I was in my long history thought experiment that, by the way, if anybody is at all tantalized, I'm working on Law Zero as the core ethos. Like, so Ayn Rand once upon a time wrote Atlas Shrugged after writing out her whole philosophy. I'm going to try to repeat her exercise. So I'm writing a fiction book that tells the story of this long history set on the philosophy of Law Zero right now. It's like my next project in the sweep of the Law Zero idea. But the story is based around the idea of, so if everything that we're doing right now pushes us towards that history, what needs to happen so that we get past this, or what will happen if we don't do it right. I'm not sure how the story's gonna play out yet. I just have characters I like so far. And a really badass event where one of them is sort of the nanotech augmented sort of post-human who stayed alive from the beginning, right? So the idea is this: future history of my fiction world is that, and it's based loosely on reality, so get ready. But around 2030, there's going to be a breakthrough in science that for cheap pills that have been in the medical system since the 50s that they didn't know if you put them together did this, causes aging to go backwards. And that everybody, because of this cheap drug, stops dying at 120 and now dies when they can no longer find a reason to want to continue to live. Right? So you give up on life because you've had your fill, right? If I've been here, I've done my thing, I can see nothing more for me to do, I'm going to go. Would be
Yeah.
what would happen if we didn't if we didn't age to death, right? Some people would
Yeah.
last 120 years and they'd be tired of it. Some people would go 300 years. And I believe this stuff about myself now. I think there may be like 5 or 6 people in 100, maybe 1 in 100, that would commit to sticking it out until the heat death of the universe because they felt it was their mission. And the story tells what happens when somebody with the will to last for millions of years shows up in an alien invasion fight when we finally clash with another civilization. 10 million years after we save the sun from going out.
Right.
And they show up, and it's these people that remember 2025, but like augmented. And one of them just like loses a companion that they're particularly fond of and just yells and just rips ships out of the sky. It's a fantastic scene, like a piece of science fiction that echoes Foundation.
Well, it does it echoes the Foundation, biblical Foundation, which you should take it more as an allegory than complete truth. I mean, there's truth molded in allegory, obviously, but what do you think? I mean, do you think that perhaps maybe way back, do you think the Bible, like in Genesis, is telling somewhat of a little sprinkle of truth where
No, I think it's
men were living
actually
longer?
what I think is this actually, and this may or may not be. So information technology is the thing where human beings have been hobbled for basically all of our existence up until the last. I mean, we're still kind of hobbled by it in a new way because we're having growing pains figuring out how to fit it to ourselves. But we've been informationally sick in the anemic sense for almost all of our history, right? So likely what happened is there were 20 times as much information that was created and told and never recorded. And then there was 20 times that information that was recorded and lost. And of the pieces that survive, we've assembled what we've got. The fact that there are whispers of who we were in that is self-evident from the fact that it's a writing. Now, if you want to start from the question of whether or not there's any kernel of ground truth in it, then the answer is obviously yes, right? Human beings telling Law Zero, writing it down. I experienced what it's like to try to translate my lived experience, my life, into the words I'm using for other people to understand what I'm trying to tell them and to understand why it's important. And that's what people were doing when they wrote this down before too, right? So I don't write things that contain no truth. Nobody does, in fact. No truth writing itself holds a truth only if you're using it as a weapon. But if you're doing it because you don't know, then you're just accidentally building a bomb at home, blowing your hand off like a moron. It's not how you use words, right? That's not how you use thought. If you can't see a historical writing from the past as something that contains a grain of truth, then you're deluding yourself, probably because you're angry at the ideas that come with accepting this as part of who we are. There's a lot of that old new atheism in the culture still that is afraid of the fact that we have a religious impulse in our past, whether or not they still hold it. It's okay with me if new atheists want to practice their religion, right? It's not okay with me if they pretend it's not a religion, but I'm also sympathetic to how they feel, right? Like you can hear their argument and understand what they mean. It's just not how I look at the world because that feels hollow to me. It doesn't ring. And it's a matter of belief because it's a matter of faith, right? And people just have to accept beliefs as part of the environment, right? Other people's beliefs are what they are. And
Well,
trying to change that is where we get ourselves into really dangerous trouble.
well, I mean, you gotta look into the past to figure out how human beings think, and
Mhm.
even you don't have to just look at the Bible. Uh, for that matter, you can look into other ancient cultures prior to the Bible. Everybody
Yep.
correlates in some capacity towards how life was, how life's supposed to be, and where we're
Yeah.
at. I mean, what secret knowledge that we've lost in some capacity. I mean, is the Bible
Yeah.
right? Yes. Is
What
the
I'm more
Hindu
interested in
writings?
is of the
Maybe.
subset that survived that didn't make it into the book.
Mm-hmm.
There's probably a small subset that didn't make it into the book and were either suppressed aggressively and or destroyed to be suppressed permanently. Because our really biggest leaders, like I think what you have to look at, like if you're going to be a rationalist and you want to be an atheist too, you at least have to look at Jesus as one of history's greatest leaders
Mm-hmm.
because he had no power where he began, and he amassed so much power that we remember the name of the myth of a man who once lived in their version of it. Right? I'm not saying their version of it's the one that I believe. I'm just saying like let's try on their ideas and see what they're thinking.
Right.
Um,
Mm-hmm. Well, it's no
that's by
different
the way a
from
really important skill for law zero
yeah.
thinking. Like if you don't yet have this capacity well developed as a person, this is for everybody, like the royal us in the audience here,
Mm-hmm.
then work on developing this capacity to hold ideas that you even despise or that conflict with you or that
Mm-hmm.
you would love if people wouldn't believe, or that you think are harmful to believe. um, Hold those in your head and understand them as would somebody who doesn't feel that way as best you
Yeah.
can. You have to containerize that and not let the fact that you're engaging with the notion a person could believe this as
Right.
you accepting the idea.
It's
But if you can simulate what it would be like to think about it if you were you accepting that idea, then you can
Mm-hmm.
understand what they're trying to say in a way that lets you on the inside of them. And if your goal is to undermine their arguments, then you can use it that way. But what I find is when I understand the human reasons why people care about stuff and adopt ideas, even the people that I disagree with most vehemently on a subject, the reason they
right.
hold their beliefs is something that I can respect.
Well,
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, not everybody can compartmentalize,
Right.
different points of
That's why.
view,
That's
and
why.
it,
If
it
that's
really
not
does
you,
suck.
yeah.
Yeah,
If that's not
it's
you, then
something
maybe
that you
Law
have to work
Zero is in
on.
your book. You know.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well,
But
just look at like
Warner
the
Williams,
Buddhists. Yeah, just look at the Buddhists though
Yep.
with
And I
Siddhartha
got no
Gautama.
disrespect, by the
I
way, for
mean,
people who feel like there's a danger in in too intimately understanding ideas that are toxic to or corrosive. Like I understand that, and if that's how you feel, we disagree, but we disagree as friends.
yeah,
mm-hmm.
yeah. It's definitely beneficial to be able to, entertain a controversial opinion without taking it
Yeah.
personally.
Well, and if we're going to make those, like you said, those is ought binary constructs so that we can slap them into our if then else simulation
Yeah,
that we have to run when we do a basilisk inquiry, then the
I mean,
entire field of ethics is closed to you if you can't hold ideas odious to you in your head and reason about them coldly.
yeah, I mean that's that's the function of being an interpreter, right?
Yeah, it's
Well,
it's the
that's
work,
it.
it's the hard work of trying to unpack admittedly sometimes dangerous ideas, right? If you're going to be
Well,
in
that's
philosophy at
yeah,
all, you have to be
yeah.
willing to recognize that ideas have a power that isn't physical harm, right? It's not
Yeah,
harm in the sense that it's reasonable to take the laws we use to stop muggings against them, but ideas can be hazardous to handle.
and
And anybody who wants to really engage with philosophy and have success at it and understand its value has to be able to
Mm-hmm.
do that. And that's a thing that I hope Well, Law Zero is designed to coax people into thinking that way. So even if you do feel the other way a little bit, go ahead and give it a read. It's probably still for
Right.
you.
I mean,
but
it's kind of feeds back into what we was that video we was watching last week with Metal Gear Solid, the content versus context, right?
yeah,
So
right. The context is the content, really.
yeah,
That's the funny thing about context and framing. Framing is an interesting one. Are you guys? We were talked about my study of information weapons that I've been engaged in for some time now.
no, I don't think we
It's
have.
kind of a
No, I think
a Law Zero emergent side project, because a lot of what we unpacked in Law Zero in the book was sort of as a result of information warfare. These issues came to the forefront of my attention, and I started thinking, okay, so the United States has since 1945 been thinking about information as weapons, at least, right? Probably before, because we were probably in on Bletchley Park well before the official records show, and the modern intelligence blob thingy, where it uses its asymmetric knowledge parsimoniously as part of a grand strategy.
Right.
That is the machine we've been up against as a people since they first hired Bernays to emulate the effects in humans that Pavlov got on his drowned dogs. Right. And now we all eat bacon and eggs for breakfast, and for a time, cigarettes were torches of freedom for women. Not shitting you. Actually, the tobacco companies hired him to make that happen.
Yeah.
But the flapper era,
I wonder why.
The voting rights movement was all laced up with big tobacco in this particular facet because Bernays came up with their marketing campaign. These people have been weaponizing information for the better half of a century, and yet every boy worth his weight in boyness spends at least a chunk of third and fourth grade drawing crude tanks and airplanes on things, right, blowing shit up. I think we've all been there, right? You amuse your friends by how elaborate the construction of the scene of death you can create was. Actually, published this old comment called "The Midget." Shout out to old readers. It was basically just crude drawings of, yeah, it was awesome. But we understood military hardware, right? We were fascinated by it, and yet nobody seems to be fascinated with military hardware as information weapon.
Right.
Like, have you ever thought about what an information weapon is? What makes a gun? For example, what is a gun? Essential. Like, describe a gun, strip it to its essential. What is a gun?
What is a gun, Andrew? Bang bang.
Yeah, it's
Basically.
a pistol
It's a projectile
handle,
launcher, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It uses
slingshot.
It uses a
So
triggering mechanism and a hammer to initiate combustion in an enclosed chamber. And in that enclosed chamber, it's structured in such a way as to force a shell out the end of a barrel of a gun of some sort, and that's a gun.
No different from a combustion
contraption for igniting and aiming and directing bullets.
Yeah, it's no different from combustion
That's what the
engine for
patent
the
would read
vehicle.
like,
Yeah.
So how do you write a patent for what they're using on us online? Because they're framing it in terms of military strategy, right? We know it. We've been doing it for so long. We know that it's part of the battle plan to execute by deploying this unit to this theater for this mission objective in service of this grand strategic goal under this command, right? We know that's how they run. Those units are defined by the weapons they bear. So how do you deploy an information unit in this command structure we know they have? You have to understand the weapon. So what are the weapons? Here's the question, right? And that's the one nobody really seems to want to ask. And the reason I'm not answering is because I think the question's more useful as a hypothetical, because the ones that I've come up with are just examples.
Yeah.
Well, if you also answer, you might end up with a knock.
Do you want an example of what I think an information weapon is?
Sure.
So,
okay, a good information weapon is something that you can deploy on command and that has minimal collateral damage relative to the target you're seeking, and that it can overcome an adversary in a situation where that kind of force is a multiplier, right? So you're going after compliance with pandemic measures in Canada, and you're their psyops team. What do? Well, we need to cultivate a general feeling of unease and fear to make people want to cluster around their homes. Let's try an experiment. And the experiment they did, and they did this, by the way, you can go look this up. The Canadian government psyops unit created a wolf hoax by playing loudspeaker recordings of wolves howling in an area that was not previously known to have wolves, and then publishing official wolf alerts around the town, alerting people to the danger from a migrating wolf pack. The whole thing was made up. That's an information weapon.
Well, there's liquidity and normalcy.
Right. And the payload was the wolf sounds, and the effect of the weapon when it hit its target was to induce low-grade generalized fear against a specific but non-localizable threat that may be anywhere. And it creates an effect of fear of being outside of protected areas. Stay indoors. Information weapon. That is how they designed it. Now,
Yeah.
if you're like me and you're a software guy, you think, okay, which of those things are variables? Right? The payload. You can choose a different kind of ammunition, right? It didn't have to be wolf howls. It could have been
Killer
smells,
bees.
right? They could have walked around sprinkling stink on the sidewalks under the theory that if it smelled bad outside, people wouldn't want to go out as much. Information weapon, right? You seed the environment with a framing, and the framing is a core. Like if you want to talk about a core element of a gun, like name a gun part that you can't have a gun without, right?
Yeah.
Framing is something you can't have an information weapon without. So anytime you're talking about a frame shift, you're looking at an information weapon in action. You might not know what it's doing, but if someone is trying to specifically frame an issue and they're fighting you on it, like you try to say, well, what if you think about it like this? No, that's racist to think about it like that. They're deploying an information weapon.
Well, it's just like it's just like the mask thing. I mean, if you're going to say grandma
is like the plan to get people to declare others racist if they brought up the lab leak theory, for example, bears the same command architecture and deployment strategy as the wolves. That's the fucked up part. The means is left to the dirty tricks engineers. The execute to achieve goal part is generalized. That's the scary part about this propaganda. Not that they can pull these dirty tricks. It's that an information weapon is a chimeric weapon.
Well, I think
they deploy the protocol, and the protocol comes up with the attack. It's like the vector and the munition and its impact are invented on the fly, targeted specifically for an audience.
Well, the reason I bring the mask and the lockdown situation is not everybody. I mean, a certain side wasn't truly listening to staying locked down, and were coming out and giving their voices, right? So with the mask, with the lockdowns, so my theory is perhaps after the George Floyd thing, that gave an initiative to utilize another reason to try to lock down the other side by giving them fear of, well, now we got race riots going on. So it's no longer now.
That was
you got to stay. Yeah, you got to stay inside. You got to put a mask on wherever you go, even outdoors when you do go outside. But at the same time, it's okay to not wear the mask and go outside and riot.
Also, 99% of the time, unless it's in a federal airport, because the feds have extra time sitting around how to think about how best to be dicks to other humans, right?
Oh, yeah.
They're the only ones who came up with the additional guidelines specifying the type of mask and what it must be made of and what it can't be made of, right? For most of the world, if you wanted to get by while being a thumb your nose at authority type, you could go on Etsy and I bought one for fun. not because I ever wore a mask against my will, but because I wanted to take photos of myself wearing my mask and taunt people with it. Right.
I'm not gonna lie.
I
bought one
want
too, just because it was an Ohio State mask. I'm like,
so
I like that.
no, the one that I bought, I couldn't find it because I lost it because it was so light. I called it a an optimized for asthmatics mask. And what it was a single layer of skin colored tulle cloth, which is that like fine fishnet. With a skin matched tone earpiece. It was meant to be minimal. So you put it on and you're not sure if what you're looking at is a camera glitch or a trick of the light, or and then it resolves like, oh, that's like the thinnest possible mask science could create. But it's still technically recovering the over your ears, over your nose, over your mouth thing.
Yeah.
So I could slap that baby on for a good joke, right? Pretty funny. It really got the goat of a lot of people, especially when I staged the photo op as if I were actually going to use it, right? Because what I did was I put it in my pocket and I went in and ignored the mask rule. You know, like that was the way to make that go away. Not because I wanted to be a dick, but because I wanted other people who wanted to do the same thing to have courage.
Right.
Yeah. Like maybe I would walk in, I'd have I'd half the time it's underneath my chin. Like I'm not putting it over my face. Hell, I mean, I worked at a hospital for a minute, and we had to have the mask on. About the only time I'd walk into the hospital is if I walked into the patient's room. That's just
the funniest part about
courtesy.
The funniest part about that to me. And by the way, the mask thing, there's some people out there who were like, that wasn't the one that bugged them as much. Like the social distancing or the work from home or the whatever, or the restaurants closed. There were so many different pieces of that could have been your least favorite aspect of authoritarianism. Mine as a person. So when I was a kid, I got in a screaming match at age, 5 over seams in the toes of seams in the under my toenails in my socks, right? If my mom bought me those socks by accident, then I was going to tear them off my feet no matter what happened. And as soon as she dropped me off at school, I'd be barefoot, right? I couldn't fucking stand it. It just drove me nuts. It was all I could think about, this shit under my toes. Put that thing on my face, somebody who already takes a regular inhaler and asking to breathe through it, I'm in a constant state of panic, right? So there was just no way. And I also thought it was profoundly and absurdly disgusting because the same mechanisms that they used to enforce it through DHS, they got the states to take it seriously at a certain point. Do you remember the day when they actually started enforcing it in stores? Because like they had, wear a mask signs up for like weeks, months even. I was at a gas station at 16th and Meridian. Right over by that McDonald's, it's a little Texaco in Indianapolis. And I walked into the gas station. I always got like an energy drink, right? And I walked in, and there was nobody else in there. And the guy came up from behind the counter and he was like, "Hey man, I know that this is stupid, but I have to take this seriously now. They're gonna start sending out stings, right?" I could have been a cop that, if I weren't asked to put a mask on, was going to ruin that guy's business.
Yeah.
So I politely left and didn't buy anything. I said, "I'm sorry you feel that way."
Yeah. I remember when it first went off, I was coming back into Knoxville. It was like overnight. I was working overnight. It was like 5:00 in the morning. And I stopped by because the only place that was open at the time was, what's it called? Waffle House. Like, what the hell is this? Awesome. They're like, you have to be 6 feet. I'm like, and screw this shit. I went home and made something to eat. Well, I'm like, are you guys really seriously playing along with this? Yeah.
Yeah. Like, come on, guys.
Go to wear a mask while you
seriously. Let's all do what everybody always did with public health and not take it seriously. Yeah. Come on. Like,
exactly.
That's the only way you can have a public health system and have a free society at once is if nobody takes it seriously.
Well, that's
the public health system is just a retroactive blaming engine for policymakers to come up with hot bullshit topics to come up with new regulators to make, right? The giant power grab engine.
Well, that's how law and morality cannibalizes itself. That really is a basilisk effect.
It is
cannibalizing society
because the whole thing gets started on good impulses.
Right.
Our best intentions regularly pave the road we're on, and we refuse to call it hell because the basilisk effects make the basilisk effect of it makes people who would otherwise see this as a failure see it as the need for a pivot, a scope increase, or blame our lack of resolve or strength of action. Right? We don't have a bureaucracy within us as humans that can learn to see itself as the problem and to disassemble itself immediately if it fails at what it does. Right?
Yeah.
That needs to be a thing. We need to figure out a way to make that not just like a thing that happens, but a thing that we don't do with any air of dishonor, right? Because the problem, the moral problem, the failing that people are making that is showing us why Law Zero is real in every way it ever does, is they're not admitting that they failed, right? There's no admission of failure because in bureaucracy, blaming others for failures and taking credit for wins is called career. Right? There's no profit motive. The only thing they have is favor, and so being looked upon unfavorably is career death.
Yeah.
So if we want a bureaucracy that can work, then we have to make it a career advancement move, a way of taking credit, a noble act to say this mode of action needs to be unwound because our theory about how it was supposed to work failed.
Right.
We're going to go back to the drawing board and try a new thing. We're unwinding this one as of immediately.
Well, I mean, you're in an incubator system, right? And if it's already started, it's kind of hard to undo it.
Right. Well, software programs have this idea of rollback, right?
Yeah.
If we put out a build that we think is ready for production on Rivet, and it turns out we cause a fuck ton of problems for our best customers, we're not going to make them wait with their problem while we fix it. We're going to roll back the code to the thing that was working yesterday for them. And then the thing that we want to do, our update, we'll figure that out in the background. And when it comes back online next time, we won't fuck it up, because if we do, then we're going to lose a customer, right?
Yeah.
That ultimately is enough, I think, of a pressure. And people don't think it is. And I've never understood why people didn't recognize that self-interest is very naturally aligned with the self-interest of others.
Well, I mean, part of it's not everyone is driven by a need for prestige, right?
Yeah, the prestige people are. I think the Venn diagram of prestige seeking and stupidity overlap almost perfectly.
Yeah.
Because stupidity, like, have you ever thought about stupidity as a phenomenon? Like what is stupidity? It's like a person who does something that hurts you and doesn't benefit them, or maybe also harms them, right? Like somebody hurts themselves and you at the same time by what they choose to do. That's stupidity. Stupid actions are things that gain you nothing and hurt other people.
Stupidity has to be learned, not.
Well, no. Stupid is just a dispersed property. If you like, there are smart people that are very stupid in some circumstances. Stupidity is like good and evil, right? It runs through the heart. Both wisdom and stupidity run through the hearts of all men. We have to choose. The truly stupid person is a statistical anomaly, just like the average person. But
right. Sometimes people take a dive on purpose to, impart lessons onto other people too.
Right. And that's actually the whole reason we have traffic jams.
Because of stupid people.
Traffic jams are a basilisk effect. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Okay, so check this out. The logic flows like this. Traffic jams are largely caused by people bunching up together in an effort to keep others from getting from closed lanes in a way that's perceived as line cutting.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you want to break a traffic jam, make so much room in front of you that no matter what, there's always someone who can get into your lane, and your lane will open up.
Yep.
And it'll open up because you backed off. But if your sense of justice is such that you need to sacrifice fairness because that asshole that passed those people in the median back there is now going to get where he's going, and everybody else is stuck, and you want to exact some instant justice by not letting them over, then you have to accept the fact that you're going to create a traffic jam.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Right.
if you look on YouTube, there's videos of people without like the whole setup we have here in the United States, and they don't have stoplights or stop signs. They just come
Yeah.
and go,
And they just
they
fly.
survive.
The dirty secret of all regulation, including road regulation, is that they're formalizations of what people are doing when they apply the law, right? Like they didn't put four-way stops up places. They looked at intersections and saw how people were safely driving them, and they put up signs that would order that driving to always be done that way, right? The regulation never comes up with a solution. It crystallizes a reality, or at least working regulation never comes up with a solution. It crystallizes reality and says that you can't do it any other way. And that's imprudent in and of itself, in my opinion. If it were me,
Whereas
for the sake of safety innovation, I would have all stop signs torn down.
Yeah.
Whereas here, I mean, we put in place
Or at least I would
roundabouts,
allow
but
stop
yet,
signs to be torn down if
yeah,
they wanted to.
yeah, we put roundabouts. Speaking of traffic, where you probably should have stop signs, and then stop signs where you probably could have roundabouts. So we do the opposite effect to
Mhm.
expand regulations to say you can't do this, or
Right.
the speed limit situation. Like nobody, I mean, I live off of a state road where the speed limit's 45.
Mhm.
Do you think anybody goes 45 by going past my house? No, they go
No,
about
no.
60, 70.
Right. And moreover,
So,
here's another interesting question. When human drivers are no longer needed to, in fact, when human drivers become such a
Obsolete.
strong negative to safety that it becomes potentially reasonable to outlaw allowing it on public roads and leaving it only to racetracks and specialty courses, like because we are death machines behind the wheel, like every one of us, me included, right? I could get in the car, and because I'm a human, not because I'm me,
Yeah.
be on my way to the pharmacy and just ruin some family's life because humans are shitty drivers, right? That's part
I
of
know.
what we are.
that's fair.
I know.
Um,
I've got a long history of screwing up cars, so
me too, honestly, and not for lack of trying to understand or care about them either, right? Like I love cars. I've always been a car guy, but I understand that that if there's a choice to let an intelligent machine choose how fast I'm going versus
Right.
me, or God forbid, whoever came up with the sign on the side of the road and decided it was an appropriate number, right? Like I frankly, I think the car probably knows more than the regulator on that front too at this point, because it's on the road, right? It knows what it can do. It may well be that someday speed limits are the reason a lot of productivity doesn't happen, because people are capable of riding their self-driving cars at 200 miles an hour bumper to bumper with all the lanes filled, and they can still change in accordance. Have you ever seen like an assembly line working at speed? Right.
I
Like
think I have
we
in
should
the
pull up a
past,
video.
yeah.
We should pull up a video of like a really like look up a chip fab real fast, like chip fab robot,
Okay.
and let's just put it on. This is what automation can do for us in the real physical world when it's precise enough. Imagine this, but the way the roads worked with cars, because they were all robots thinking like this.
Just a second. See if there's online AMD. I know this one for Intel, but I'm not a big.
Yeah. Like, I mean, just I imagine it like we'd be going bumper to bumper, at 175 miles an hour around a curve. And
Right.
Since my car needed the exit, it would start a subtle move that the car next to it would already know how to react to. They'd create just enough space at just the right time interval, such that the limits of physics or limits of physics and comfort were the limits on how fast it could make changes.
Yeah.
So that it would just be like zip, 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 like it would just move, sort of like an industrial machine on an assembly line. Wall to wall traffic could be accommodated if perfect coordination could happen like that.
I've got a video here. I'd like watch it in advance, but we'll try it real quick to see if it works.
Yeah.
Where's it?
It's worth appreciating this just like for the aesthetic of it when everybody
Right.
and we're like belaboring putting it up, but watch this, guys, and just like appreciate how
This microchip can take up to 26 weeks to make. In its as many as 100 layers, billions of transistors are packed into an area about the size of a fingernail. They're the brains behind almost everything we use in our increasingly electronic world. Here's how these complex, tiny devices are made. The process begins with silicon-rich sand. Why silicon? Silicon is a semiconductor. It's the sweet spot between an insulator and a pure conductor. That means its properties, such as its conductivity, can be altered by adding impurities or doping to meet the needs of different electronic devices.
This is a way of saying that
Allows us
it's
to
a thing
control
that
the
can either be an
electrical
insulator or
signals
conductor
that
depending on
pass
whether or not you
through.
hit it with electricity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how it works. It turns it on and off
Yeah,
with
you,
the
you
electrical
close a
signals.
circuit, it becomes a conductor. You open a circuit, it becomes an insulator. That's how you have a switch
Yeah.
that you can measure is on or off reliably. And that's all.
That's
That's
binary.
direct.
Logic
That's direct
Binary.
flow, isn't it?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
our computerized world is built off of the fact that you can say yes, no, yes, no, yes,
Mm-hmm.
or no, yes, no, yes, no, or no, 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 yes, in all of the ways you need to solve any logical problem. Right?
Yeah.
Zeros
So-
and ones.
Right. So you can
Zeros
use
and
using yes and no gates, yes and no
Mhm.
checks, conclude that something is or is not an equivalent, is or is not identical,
Right.
is or is not a probabilistic match. Right. We can use these switches to construct a complete logic system.
I remember when Grand Theft Auto Chinatown Wars came out, I was hearing about like the developers behind it actually went into straight binary programming just to make sure they could get 30 frames per second because how difficult it was on that
I
target
believe it.
hardware.
Right. The latency you get from just compiling
Yeah.
from assembly was too much to get it precise. Right.
Yeah.
They're only this is really an interesting thing because you know the every blockchain has a kind of core that's like this, right? If you look at assembly language for one
Yeah.
computer versus assembly language for the Ethereum virtual machine, you're looking at identical constructs.
Yeah.
That's why they call it a world computer, because
Right.
because the way that you interact with the network at the base level, if you're not going to write in Solidity to make smart contract shit happen, use Ethereum virtual machine code.
Yeah.
Would
Go
be
ahead
the same
and
thing.
jump back into
Same
it.
thing as yeah. Anyway. It's kind of a neat trick.
Sorry.
to use.
Silicon is also abundant. It's one of the 10 most common elements found
Yup,
on
sand.
Earth. But much of the silicon found in the wild is chemically bound to oxygen, so the two elements must be separated. The sand is combined with carbon and melted in crucibles to produce carbon monoxide and 99% pure silicon. After further processing, ultra-pure silicon is produced. Next, a seed crystal is placed in contact with molten silicon. As the seed crystal is slowly pulled away, silicon atoms are deposited on the bottom surface. The result is a large cylindrical boule, or a single crystal ingot of pure silicon. The boule is then thinly sliced into wafers.
I wonder if they named
Silicon
that after the
wafers
guy.
typically have diameters of 1 to
That'd be cool.
12
Could
inches,
be.
with the most state-of-the-art facilities being able to produce
George
wafers
Boole,
up
by
to
the way, is the guy
18
who
inches
invented
in
the logic
diameter.
system with ones
Bigger
and
wafers
zeros.
are, of
People who
course,
don't know.
able to yield
Great,
more
great human
microchips.
being. Fun to read about.
Once the silicon wafers are cut, the
Always learning
production
something on
process
the legacy
begins in
ride.
full. Microchips are made in
Right.
extremely sterile conditions, free from contaminants such as dust. If even just one particle of dust makes its way onto a silicon wafer, the entire batch is at risk of being ruined. This would derail
Yep.
a process that can take
Think of
an
that
average
precision.
of 12 weeks. The
The
first
machines
step
are
of the
doing that.
production process is
No dust.
deposition.
None.
Say it again.
This is why we should automate.
Right. So if you think about
Yeah.
like the precision it would take to make no dust happen in that situation, and you think about what
Yep.
highway traffic could be like if we let machines optimize for precision without speed limits,
Mhm.
or
Right.
even lane diagrams for that matter. We may be drawing them wrong. Self-driving cars might organize better if we let them choose.
Yeah. And I
And
mean,
can you
we need to
imagine
stop
being-
letting. Go ahead, Andrew.
Can you imagine
don't
be the
talk much.
engineer responsible for, trying to pull this kind of stuff off? You'll be like
Yeah.
wicked smart.
Wow. Well,
this
or
is
you have to.
this
I think you
is
have to realize that you have to design systems that are smarter than you if you want to do this. You
Yeah.
know, like
Yeah.
well,
that's the crazy thing about designing AI is you need to find a way to make it smarter than you.
that's to your point there, Greg. We need to get the fear element out of our head, thinking that, well, it's all about the jobs, and my people are going to lose jobs. Well, yes, people are going to lose jobs, but people are also going to gain
Right.
jobs.
They're going to lose jobs
because
to
they
what?
gain an yeah. So
Whether
they're
they
going
lose
to
jobs, they're
gain
going to lose
access.
jobs to humanoid robots that can do
Exactly.
everything they can do
Yeah.
on command without sleep or food. And guess who's
Mhm.
going to own those? We don't know yet.
Humans.
It could be you owning a fleet. Like I don't understand why
Exactly.
people think that it's going to be Amazon buying robots and maintaining them in a fleet in their factories when they already have a system
Yeah.
of intake designed to fill warehouses with needed workers with the exact same capabilities.
They already
What
have
makes
that
more
model,
sense is for them
especially.
to have an HR system that's automated to beep in robots that meet a job spec and
Hmm.
people to send their robots to get paid to do that job.
Yeah. I mean, just think. I mean, like Amazon already has that system in place. It's
Right.
not
And your
perfect, but you
robot
have
doesn't
the
need the money it
DSPs.
makes for you,
Yeah.
but it's going to go make money for you. We're not losing
Hmm.
jobs. We're becoming a society of nothing but overseers.
We're becoming a society that is here. It is. Here it
Right.
is,
And
William.
the danger is
Post
that the
labor
professional managerial
economics.
class leverages what they want to maintain their prestige, right? What we've
Hmm.
created, interestingly, and this is a new insight, this popped into my head just now. You guys want to run with me on a rabbit hole?
Sure.
Let's go.
Th-
Let's go
Think about
on a
this.
rabbit hole.
So suppose that our popularity contest based system has an attractor basin for prestige seekers around. This is an obvious truth, right? You don't run for president if you don't have it. Even presidential candidates talk about the arrogance you have to think you're good enough for that job, right? That we run that job by popularity contest is fucking absurd, right? I think I'm
Yeah.
good at this, so I'm going to go win this popularity contest. If you think you're a leader, if you think you're good at winning popularity contests, you're like, I could be president.
Mm.
What would I do?
Mm.
Right?
Well, if that's
I
the
don't know.
case, I could.
And
Oh,
so politics is an attractor basin
that's kidding.
for people who seek prestige, who desire it, who want to matter. Right? You go into politics because you want to matter.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Now, suppose you're in that system and you're faced with the unenviable situation of being this professional managerial elite right at the dawn of when every human being on Earth joins the managerial class.
Mm.
Yeah, that's going to be a
Your
tough time.
prestige starts to fade when ordering people around isn't what you do anymore. When
Yep.
that's been automated away by robots.
Well, it brings on a nice point because the managerial revolution was a lead of putting together two binaries, who's in charge and who's the worker. But what happens when all human beings are finally at the equal footing of being managers to AI and robotics?
Well, and it'll happen quick, right? Because
Yeah.
when you get enough money to put a down payment on your first hominid robot, the first thing you're going to do is make sure that the jobs it can get are greater than the monthly payment, so that it's paying for itself.
Mhm.
Right.
So
Mhm.
you give it a command. You say, only take jobs that put us on projection to cover the costs of you. I'm going to give you an extra directive. I'm going to say, also make sure that whatever jobs you take, if possible, optimize for saving up for robot number 2.
Mhm.
By
I'm
the
going to
time
give
you've
you a
got, by the time
comparison
you've got,
on.
and then you onboard the new one, so that it's on mission right away.
What are you mining Bitcoin at a loss?
Right. So your robotic fleet starts to become, like the thing that makes you economically viable. And at first it'll feel like you've been replaced, and then it's going to
Mhm.
feel like you've been doubled, and then it's going to feel like
Yeah.
you've been tripled and quadrupled as your robots afford you more robots up to the level of your desire.
Right.
And I'll
If
give
you have a
you
need
I'll
to
give you
build
an
mega
example.
projects, then you can keep doing that until you have an army big enough to build a star ladder.
I'll give you an example of this
Your
on
ambition
an
will limit you.
individual level. but with smart people, like people that know exactly what to do, like actual hustlers that do Uber and Lyft, they do exactly that. If they lease a vehicle, then they know, okay, well, I need to work between this time frame and this time frame, and I need to have a goal to make this each and every day so that I can be able to
Right.
afford the lease and then the gas and then the maintenance
Yeah, and
and
also
then
you have to amortize
my
for
profit.
maintenance, and then
So
and then of
yeah.
course the big wet bite where they screw over everybody involved
Hmm.
uh, with the gig economy in a way that makes
Yeah.
the political
But the,
need to blame the companies part of
yeah,
the deal. Right, like the only reason
exactly.
that the government cares about gig work exploiting workers is because the tax they place on gig workers is so high that the gig workers are no
Yeah.
longer making a satisfactory amount when they're done. Right,
Hmm.
it's the
Yeah.
taxes. The
It's
taxes
the
are the fucking
taxes.
problem. You know,
But
and they're like, but you people are needy, and if we don't have these tax streams, then we won't be able to put you at ease when your unstable gig job falls apart. We won't be able to go after these companies for you.
mm,
So these taxes are necessary. No, the taxes are not necessary. The taxes are
but
tricking you into Stockholm syndrome.
yeah, but I mean, if you actually take it into effect of what it is, get rid of the taxes, get rid of the government intervention, let people do what they're going to do and adapt,
Right,
you could actually have people using these gigs to eventually advance and expand to where they run their own little fleet,
right.
and then they don't have to actually go out there and do their own thing.
Yeah. But the neat
So,
thing about
Right.
crypto anarchy is that it's coming no matter what they do. Right?
mhm,
That was Timothy May's prophecy, right?
yeah,
And I don't know if people know about Timothy May too much on your show. Do you guys talk about Timothy May ever?
we don't.
No.
We know who he is, obviously, but we
Well,
haven't.
for anyone in your audience who doesn't know Timothy May was the first cypherpunk. He was the person who wrote the Crypto Anarchist Manifesto. And if you read the Crypto Anarchist Manifesto, what you will see it say isn't we need to make this the goal. It's that crypto anarchy is coming because this technology is developing, and no matter what governments do, and they're going to react poorly to it, it shall become, right? Because of the
Right.
way innovation works, this is just pretty much inevitable at this point. The code's already here, and the utility's obvious. All somebody has to do is strike a match, and that gasoline barrel's on fire, and it's not going to be on fire anytime soon, right? It's
Yeah.
already a foregone conclusion. Um, that is what Timothy May said, and the insight is realized when they try to stop it in this way, right? Uber exists right now, and so the government has a blame partner that they can collude with to have a sort of controlled opposition puppet bad guy for the puppet theater.
Please, please. It's controlling the height of the flame.
Yeah, exactly. So the point of bringing this up with respect to Basil's effect with technology is that self-driving cars and rideshare will either be through a Tesla-like company, or if the
Hmm.
government decides it wants to get a bite of that rideshare so much that it stops being viable for people to buy the cars as revenue generators,
Yeah.
then what you'll see is a demand for decentralized marketplaces, which I have an idea for one that sounds fun. Think about this. Uber, but smart contracts, unstoppable code, and reputation without identity.
It
I
goes
mean,
to
that would be
this
it.
right here.
it,
It goes
it would be a
exactly to that
nightmare Uber
first
for them
sentence.
because there would be nobody to blame when they wanted to try to stop it.
Yeah.
Hmm.
That's why they went after Roman Storm. That's the line in the sand they drew. And the world is on the cusp of doing like fucking. Here's one that's more controversial. In fact, I would be willing to bet there are some people maybe in your audience that are going to be angry at the idea just existing because some people are reasonably conservative and also hate scooters. Those dockless scooters that your city likes to keep under control because when they first came on the scene, they didn't have regulators on it and they were just everywhere,
Yeah.
right?
They're still everywhere. I
They're
still
still
find them
everywhere.
everywhere,
Yeah,
but it's not as bad.
but when they first came out, it was like 15
Oh, it was all.
companies, 30 scooters at every corner. You know, like
Hmm.
They were more abundant than discarded masks in 2020.
I still find discarded masks already.
Same. By the
Still,
way,
to this day.
environmentalist greenies, you fucks. If you're out there,
Right.
if you have the patience to watch this show, then you have the patience to flagellate yourself a bit for making masks a priority. Enjoy all those dead sea turtles, you fucks.
Pretty
Anyway,
much.
sorry, I still am disgusted by the stupidity of that, because I swear to God, it's disgusting to find a mask lying on the ground, and they're everywhere still. The worst
I mean,
Unfortunately.
people want to.
I mean, look,
Can you done
look at
toothpicks
this.
instead? At least those are small.
Yeah.
This right here gets, I mean, out of the Crypto Anarchy Manifesto, it just sums it up right there. Interactions over networks will be untraceable via extension rerouting of encrypted packets and tamper-proof boxes, which implement cryptographic protocols with nearly perfect assurance against any tampering. Reputations will be of central importance far more important in dealing than even the credit ratings of today. That sounds like tornado cash.
Exactly. If you're a bad actor and you become
Excellent.
known, you're out of the market because nobody wants to deal with bad guys.
Mhm.
Right.
You know, and that's something that I think the government always assumes, and that basilisk effect thinking assumes, that we have to get out of. That we can't trust unregulated space, that we can't trust humans to act beneficently in their own self-interest, that we can't expect people to cooperate, and or that we can't expect them to cheat when we're not looking, right? It's
And
not
that's Bernays.
like privacy coins aren't guaranteed tax evasion. All they do is make it so people who don't want to pay taxes don't have to, and you can't prove that they owed anything because you can't see what they have, right? It doesn't mean that as a person, if you feel like it's your ethical and moral and legal duty to follow the law, then you pay your taxes, right? Even if they can't see, because it's good to follow the law. But for some reason, our society has devolved into this precautionary mindset that says, if there is not a law forbidding, people will exploit as if they were on a mission to cause harm.
Yeah.
You know, and so we frame the idea that we should trust the dynamics of a system that we have no visibility into, and that we have no laws governing, to be mostly good just by virtue of the fact that it's happening.
Well,
That's considered
another.
naive recklessness in policymaking circles, to say that like technology is good if it's got people interested, because markets mean that people have voluntarily decided to do this.
I was about ready to say that, Lisa. It's not laws,
Right.
it's
Yeah.
policy.
It was
And that's a
meta-policy, too.
basilisk effect.
It's governing
Because,
ethos.
I mean, yeah, it is, because, and it's also a basilisk effect, because at one end you're saying it even like within their policy, the IRS refers to the income tax as voluntary, but yet it's obvious that it's mandated.
Voluntary in the sense that it's voluntary not to,
Yeah.
you know, not to steal from your neighbors, right? Like,
Exactly.
You're voluntarily being a good citizen, but but if you want to be a criminal, then then we can talk about voluntariness. The real crime happens when you refuse to pay the government or follow the government order.
Exactly. It's cannibalizing. It's literally legal incest.
You haven't broken the law until they come for you.
Andrew's
over it, essentially.
I got that from Michael Malice.
You got it from Michael Malice.
Yeah.
Progressivism is just driving the speed limit.
No, let's talk about
for
legal
conservatives.
incest.
Yeah, because it's
The law is
legal
legal
incest.
incest.
It really is, honestly, because you have to correspond with to one extreme with the another extreme. You meet in the middle, and it's basically just fucking each other. They're both cousins. They're first cousins. So,
but when you're a little kid and you're experiencing puppy dog crush days, I bet that everybody's had that uncomfortable experience of feeling romantically uh, uh, engaged with a cousin, right? Like if you have an opposite sex cousin and you're heterosexual, you're going to experience that as a child because children are children, right? Like,
Impressionable. Yeah,
right.
they're
Well, it's
yeah.
not that we're impressionable. It's that we're developing those senses, right?
Oh
Uh,
yeah, yeah.
the mere fact of male female attraction, while not explained to kids, begins to develop well before they explain it, and that happens
Oh
among
yeah.
cousins too, right? That's why parents don't let them hang out in a room that's completely unguarded, if there any sense to them, um,
Yeah.
especially when they're younger, because kids don't have those rules of propriety learned from the morals of society yet. That's why we have to have stewardship over kids. That's why you can't have them defining their own genders and shit, right? Because we have to be responsible for that until they're developed.
Yeah.
And that's sort of a charge of a species that wants to survive, isn't it?
hmm I mean, if you want to survive, we can't be
I
playing
personally,
around.
I mean, you
I
guys have
mean,
been clean with my motives. You know where I want humanity to end up. So I'm definitely pro, not having kids be undermined by how we handle them. You know,
hmm
it's it's kind of evil. I think if we're going to orient the compass of evil, it should be uh, pointed squarely at anybody who fights goals that take humanity to the farthest possible reaches it could go.
hmm
We should aim high with
Well,
our ethics rather than low.
yeah. Well, it's just like what you said earlier. I mean, especially when it comes to children, children are an end, not a means. And what society's doing right now is using children to a means to establish a very
Well,
dystopian, totalitarian
and they're
existence.
doing it by accident. They're doing it by accident because, and we should come back to this too, because like we were talking about the precautionary approach when this example came up, right? A precautionary view towards the care of children is what got us here.
Yeah.
What is that?
Mm.
I mean, like, if you sit with that idea, what is the precautionary principle? It says you
It,
shouldn't act unless you're certain, or unless you're comfortable that you're not going to do a certain kind of harm. You should evaluate for
Right.
harms
Yeah.
you might do before you take action.
It's
Is the precautionary principle, and they mean it at the institutional level, right? They mean like before we take institutional action, we must be cautious. And if institutional action ever becomes something like issuing licenses that authorize a certain kind of activity, then all of a sudden precautionary action and a precautionary principle bias says the default answer is no.
Sandra Spooner talks about that in his work, Vices Aren't Crimes. He's talking about
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
you can't teach a child, the nature of fire without them actually getting burned. I know that sounds very counterproductive, but it's for their
But
benefit,
unless
it's not for their
unless you
harm.
want to raise a fire daredevil, let them do it at the earliest chance you get.
Yeah.
So, do we have a demographic problem?
I think we have a problem of demographic, but not necessarily demographic problem,
hmm
if that makes sense. So interesting. But do you guys know who invented the precautionary principle?
I do not.
Man by the name of
In my
Conrad Ott, OTT. So Conrad with a K. And he's a
oh,
German philosopher, environmental ethicist whose primary work was on ecological ethics. So he was looking at geoengineering and saying, is this wise? Which sounds really pretty reasonable, doesn't it? Right? If you look
Mhm.
Yeah.
squarely at geoengineering and say, what do you think the off-target potential effects of screwing with this complex system in one specific way to achieve one end we can prove scientifically that we can get in toy experiments? But if we do this at scale without all the controls, we don't know what might happen because there are unknown unknowns, right?
Yeah.
If you're being humble before the basilisk effect and you're recognizing this is a complex system, then you're going to look at that and see, oh, eco-engineering and the precautionary principle applied equals right answer, right? It works in that case. The problem with precaution is what it does to decision architecture, right? And that was something that he was not specialized in. He wasn't trying to see what would happen if anyone ever thought to weaponize these ideas. And so we've stumbled upon our second information weapon of the day. The precautionary principle is an information weapon.
discoveries, advancing the knowledge necessary for utilization.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and so how do we position ourselves instead? Right? That's the philosophy chapter, right? What's the right philosophy to make sure that whatever we do with our philosophy as our first principles, um, or guiding our first principles, what do we do to make sure that that system doesn't make basilisks for us all the time?
I mean, there's no
Because
real. It's a strange game.
we embed those philosophies in our assumptions about the world,
Yeah.
right? We don't, like, how would you say our society is currently ethos? I think it's somewhere between precautionary utilitarianism and nihilism.
That's exactly where it is, especially post Nietzsche.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like
So-
the people who could be bothered to care about this being the wrong way are all nihilists.
I mean, you could say like the egalitarians are really just nihilists
Right.
because you know that you can't have a utopian of equal.
Right. The problem is
equation.
that the utopians anticipated this effect being exactly what it was and have been engineering that nihilism for the last, for the Bernays century.
Mm.
Right. Their information weapons have all been erosive and meant to work over time scales of multiple decades.
Well, it's been meant to eradicate people's sensibility of living and basically, well, eradicate the majority of humanity so we can condense it to a smaller field. So then they have some sort of, I guess, happy purpose of not having to deal with anything but their little la life, I guess, because it's easier to sustain with a small population for the most part.
They think it is, but it's actually like, there's a decaying gradient and then a cliff. Like this thing is a trap. It looks like the right answer until the day it becomes the only wrong answer you're allowed to have anymore. Or the only answer you're allowed to have anymore, wrong or right? Because if we screw this up, the problem with entropy is if we fuck civilization up, there may not be enough energy left on Earth for us to build it back. Right? Think
like
about
if
this.
we start launching nukes.
If shit went to hell in a handbasket, is there even enough available close to surface energy to resume deep mining operations for more oil? Or is that energy capacity to even make the ability to start one deep well gone?
Well, I mean, it's a very time-consuming and expensive process. So, yeah.
So you have to have a massive industrial base before you can even begin the deep sea drilling step that now is necessary to access meaningful energy, right?
Yeah.
So that easily accessible stuff that got us our start won't be there if we do a reboot, right?
Yeah.
So
we'll have a, and that's ultimately, if you want to look at a stable state economy, anybody who's saying that with a straight face is using as a vast euphemism for a plan to push us back below this energy barrier after it's too late. Trap us on our planet.
That's where we have to listen to Elon and his push for Mars, honestly.
Yeah. Because not necessarily because he's right about the specific reasons he wants to do it, but because the fact he's so driven to do it right now may be our only chance. Basically, as long as he's still allowed to launch rockets, we got a shot. And he'll be allowed to launch rockets for as long as he's alive. How many years we got?
Yep. For the next 200 years.
Because then SpaceX, because as soon as he's gone, I guarantee you SpaceX will do the Apple thing, where they were changing the world and revolutionizing the landscape of information and philosophy and history with the way iPhone was freeing people. And then Tim Cook got a hold of it. And it devolved into identity politics support and like hyper atomized individualism in a way that's not powerful. Actively diffusing the power of. This is the thing that, like, one of the biggest conflicts I have in life is I'm ultimately myself comfortable as an atomic individual. Like, if every human were at my level of comfort with just being in the world and having to make my epistemology for myself, just looking around and be like, if nobody's going to define this for me, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
That I'm comfortable in a state of atomic individualism. That's something that, because I'm keenly aware most people aren't. And I want to live in a world that's as close to that for me as possible, but it's one that I know needs compromise, right? It's the original civilizational compromise, the Lockean compromise, that we sacrifice some of our liberty for the security we want, so that we don't live in a state of perpetual war, and that we can spawn cooperative economies. Now, here's an interesting question, though, and this is one I've been playing with lately. You think it's possible that there's a third mode where maybe we needed that kind of structure to get off the ground with an economy that was cooperative, but that once bootloaded, once enough of the pirates have been saved off for long enough, and there's some power in cooperation, you know, the merchants themselves have some wealth, and so can afford to defend themselves. Do you really need law and order imposed by a centralized force forever, or is it a thing that, like training wheels on a bike, can fall away once we're all riding?
I think it's something that can be pulled
That's-
away because, you know, there's, like I said before, there's liquidity and normalcy, but when you've totally detached and adjusted what is normal, then the game's up.
So maybe try to
I
say the
will
system is a fool's
agree.
errand, right? Maybe try
Yeah.
to say the system's a fool's errand. Maybe what we need
Yeah.
to do is make sure that the bike's humming on and the gyroscope's spinning when the wheels crumble and fall off.
I would actually say I would agree with that sentiment at one time, Andrew. But now, as I'm evolving and getting more into my faith more, I honestly think that you need to have some type of order and something set up in advance in order to
Yeah.
get rid of the totalitarian authority. Otherwise, you're just going to find yourself in a vacuum of relativist
Right.
violence.
I agree. I
So-
agree. The place where we are right now in civilization is neat, though, because it allows us to massively upgrade that order system. And that's
I
what
think
I
that's
see
where
some
AI
importance.
comes. Yeah, I think that's
AI
exactly
plus
where AI
blockchain
comes.
tech, AI plus blockchain tech plus the missing third ingredient, and this is the key,
Yeah.
because the thing that will define whether or not what we get is an efficient dystopia or an efficient liberated humanity is whether or not we see this part, that, you know, the spirit in which we forge this time matters a lot, right? That we can't now is the least important time to be data-driven decision makers about this, right? That the
And I think
time
that's the law and
for
order.
data gathering and hypothesizing about options has come and gone. And we are now in a place where we have to look at all the things that we could do and decide what we're for doing.
Well,
And I
what
think
we're really
that's
doing
where
is
the law and order, and then I'll let you
Exactly.
jump
And
on there,
that's-
Andrew. But the law and order is exploring the use of AI, blockchain, etc. All these movements that can be used decentralized on the
Right.
capability of where
because sticks
people
and stones
become the
break
government.
bones, not words.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
all of this idea space enforcement concept needs to be stripped out.
Exactly.
what
Constitutional
we're-
republic on blockchain.
we're
Go
really
ahead,
doing
Even
is we're
better.
playing.
Wait, what about? Can I pose another crazy idea here? I've been trying to get people to break open this with me.
Well, let
Constitutional
Andrew
Republic
say
on
his
chain
piece.
is a neat concept.
Correct.
Go ahead. Oh, sorry.
Okay, I was just going to comment.
I got
mean,
excited. I have some notes.
what we're really talking about here is we're testing the demon's core, right? We're pushing the buttons. We're renegotiating the terms of the contract, the condition, the social contract, and we're up against the edge. We got the screwdriver right there. We're risking poisoning ourselves, but at the same time, we're putting everything on the line for the betterment of humanity.
We always have been. That's human's nature, man. Look around. We got people all over, left and right, doing stuff because they want to save whatever day they see needs saving.
Yeah.
Right. That impulse is grand, right? That is what makes me have white pill level optimism in what humans can achieve, because even though we suck at it, we keep trying to help. You know, and what Law Zero, the goal of it is to give us an upgrade to that, you know, that, like the question I asked at the end of the intro, what are we really doing when we try to help?
Yeah.
That's the question we have to ask every time we set out to help. because if we don't, then we may think we're helping.
But we're actually being counterproductive.
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. Right? You know, it's good to take the medicine that you need when you're sick. But if the
Mhm.
rule is, I'm a helper by medicating people, and the way that you go about that is by running around madcap injecting people, whether they want it or not, on a schedule. Like every day, the psycho comes and he holds us all down and he injects us. Right? He's
Mhm.
taking care of your health, isn't he? No.
Yeah.
Right? We we are capable of being perfectly rational beings. And we're also capable of seeing the wisdom of not being perfectly rational beings by choice.
Right. It's a wild world.
And
Yeah,
I bring
let's-
this back up to stem your exciting idea back into your head,
Oh,
Greg.
right. What? Help me trigger it again. It was
Triggered
oh
off
yeah,
of
yeah, the
Lisa's
Constitutional
comment,
Republic.
Constitutional Republic on blockchain.
Yes. Okay. Let's unpack this. Okay. So constitutional republics, right? That has a meaning. We've got a very specific set of ideas around constitutional republics. Like you elect representatives, they go. There's these houses, right? We know it. They teach you in civics, right?
Mhm.
What do they teach you about how monarchies work in civics, or corporate oligarchies, or
That they're
anarchist,
dictatorships.
or crypto anarchist agorists unions of friends?
That those are chaos. That's what the
these are
world
all,
teaches us.
these are all models
I,
of governance.
Yeah.
I prefer the
So
Union of
so
Egoists myself.
so there's this
Mm.
old like hobby horse that I have. You guys remember when, like, in the late 2010s, people were in the tech press were doing their snarky thing where they, well, not snarky thing, it's market based thing where Apple doesn't pay for their advertising because it doesn't like to advertise the way that they do. So
Like American Express.
so they have no incentive to do anything other than take pot shots at them in the tech press, who are mostly interested in selling ads.
Yeah.
Like when they were doing that, and somebody from the UX profession brought up the fact that Apple's old design was going away to Windows flat design. The era of the skeuomorph was over. Do you remember the word skeuomorph? It was the idea that, like, if you want to make a card table app or card game app, that you used a felt texture on the very looking like a table board you put the cards on when you draw it on the screen, rather than like an
Right.
abstract white space with colors and shit, right? The skeuomorph is the reference to physical object made in the UI. It's so people have an easier time grasping that this is a gaming table, for example. Or
Yeah.
The classic example I like to in UI design. So I used to do, like, back in the day when I was at this level of profession, I was like a designer. So I was the person who figured out from a business or a legislature like what their process was, so that the buttons made sense in the right places for what they needed to get done, and when they clicked, it happened as fast as they needed to, and they could get to it when they needed to, right? Like, so that
Yeah.
they could do their work that way instead of the old way.
Mhm.
And there's, like, UI elements have weird names, right? So you get used to writing these specs. You're like, this thing called a radio button exists, and I was like, huh, that's odd. This is all happening inside of one system. There's no network signal going here when I click. Why would you call it a radio button at all? As it turns out, what that means is it's an exclusionary toggle, right? So on old time car radios, remember when you push a radio station setting, the button for the setting you were on before clicks out. And
Yeah.
if you want to do a new setting, you change the dial, and while holding down on a state set button, you reset the thing, and that push pin gets set to that position on the dial. So when you hit the thing, it would, like, move the dial, right?
Yeah.
And the reason they were toggled like that is because it had to activate a mechanism that had to weight itself back to a neutral state for the next push. It was all spring based, right? Like a wind up toy. And that's how they designed the way car radios interface. And they used that metaphor with radio buttons to describe that behavior for people when they were seeing them on a computer screen for the first time. Hence, the radio button becomes the name officially of a system design that users select a thing between options that are mutually exclusive, right? You explain it as a radio button, keep it simple. But the
Context.
problem becomes like, what happens if we need to change the design of this button such that in this one particularly definable case, you can select two of them? That's not the way radio buttons work.
No.
Because in the radio button world, it would break the radio if you push them both at the same time. In fact, go find any old
It
car with
does.
one of those. And odds
did.
are you're going to find a radio with the settings broken and two buttons pushed in right next to each other, right? So what happens if we accidentally import the logic of that metaphor into the way we think about computers?
I did.
Oh, yeah,
I was
right.
one of those people.
I thought it was
Yeah.
a satisfying tactile feeling to push them both in at the same time and feel a break, honestly.
Till I put my system in my
it-
Beretta, then I didn't mess with the radio.
To me, it was like popping bubble wrap. You know, it's like,
Right.
that was satisfying. Now it's done. I need a new radio, but
Mm.
it didn't matter because those only existed in shitty old cars where the radio didn't actually even work anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were already broken by the time I was there to break it for fun a little further. But
Mhm.
that's beside the point. The point of the skeuomorph story is this, right? There's more than just visual skeuomorphs, right? We build into the way. The example that I always gave when I was at the legislature to explain this to people, because this is when I started harping on it. It's like as soon as I encountered this, I was like, this is stupid. We are lynching ourselves with our own metaphors. They made us do things like make a document viewer that drew the dimensions of the paper to the traditionally sized paper framing. So it's not an 8.5 by 11, it's an 8.5 by 11.52717 special form of paper invented by this publishing house in the legislature, and they want to keep the tradition. So the screen is going to display it that way, and you're going to modify the code to do that instead of working on something else. And I'm sitting here like looking around the legislature and seeing all the legislatures and all the aides and all the staffers, at best iPads, at worst 2014's biggest smartphone, right? Mostly 2014's biggest smartphone, trying to read a document drawn to a dimension that when you draw it to that dimension takes away screen real estate for the display of text. We have used a skeuomorph, a reference to the idea of document, in a way that preserves the bounds of the physical thing when we invented it in the new medium that has no constraint there, right? Like, what would have been smart would have been to realize that it would have been way better to display the text and nothing but the text if you're showing people a bill.
Yeah.
You know, maybe with inline markup. If we wanted it to be good, we'd abandon the paper framing. But the skeuomorph keeps us anchored in the idea as necessity. And sometimes that's okay, right? Sometimes it actually doesn't matter. Sometimes it's really important to have the ritual. But when the way that we frame the tool metaphorically starts to get in the way of the ways we can actually use the tool, then it becomes a problem.
Mhm.
I think we've seen a lot of that sort of start to crystallize in the world today. The way regulators like to think about things is find that one way the market's solving it, and anchor it, forever rule.
Yeah.
That's how you end up with flat mirrors instead of cameras, right? And the problem gets really bad with code because code's always designed by finding one specific use case that works and then generalizing from it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, so we'd end up with our weapon formulation from earlier. And the law says an information weapon is designed to be a thing that makes wolves howl.
Mhm.
Right? It's not. That's just one way you can use it, and so the metaphor breaks down, and we need to be cognizant of where our metaphors break down for us. I think this is one of them. So
Well, I mean, there's always a strategy in the lie because the story. Speaking of the wolves,
So
I mean,
all that said, though, I
so-
want to get to our fun thought experiment, right? So here's my government design. What if we put not a chain republic? What if we didn't put a blockchain republic online? What if instead we came up with something I call a stochastic imperium? And this is a democratic system by which lotocratically one dictator is given one decision randomly selected by lottery. When the system system is done with that dictator making a solution, the next one who gets to make one decision is onboarded, randomly selected from eligible population. You
that
form
sounds like
DAO,
a
you agree to bind yourself to the will of the monarch, and the monarch is whoever gets selected next.
that sounds like a digitized DAO Roman style system, but without the two councils and the dictator for life.
And my
It's
point
just one
isn't this is the
dictator.
most genius idea ever. Let's switch to this. My point is you wouldn't design that idea in a world that didn't have software that
Mhm.
could do something like randomly select a new emperor from the entire
Yeah.
population reliably.
Mhm.
And reliably track that they'd done their one action, and so it was time.
So how would you stop that one
that's what-
emperor during their time to not
Well,
expand
to
on
do
it?
well because you wouldn't even have a situation set up to begin with where that one emperor would ever be faced with a choice that would be legible in that way. Like
Huh.
if the last decision that gets made triggers a random search that picks from a broad eligible population the next decision maker, then any prior influence over the next decision maker is impossible. You get that person's call from a sample of the population on an issue that's predefined.
So their
And
decision.
you build the system around what questions need we ask the king. And then you make sure that the king is selected democratically on a ground by ground, instance to instance basis. There's not time to influence it because by the time the next emperor is being asked to make their decree, the decree that they're making was designed in the last step. And because the last official act had to happen before what happens next can even become discussable. So you would eliminate the influence op part of political campaign candidate selection.
So essentially, you're making it to where, like, say, one decree or two decree or maybe three decree, and then it automatically triggers an election.
And this was my actual point. My point wasn't to say this system is the system we should have. My point is to say that there is a whole solution space of potential ways that we could govern ourselves. Like, you want to find a million infinite ultraviolets of that idea, you change the number of days, number of decisions. You change the selection criteria for when the emperor rolls over. You've built variations on my first theme, but you can also take my first theme and be like, why don't we have a triumvirate instead? We're going to fork this all together. Same system, triumvirate. What about same system?
Yes.
Game theoretic, structured gameplay is the result. Or how about an AI plus human symbiote running on trusted software using a model the polis all agrees on at Dow formation time makes the final decision. Maybe
you had me at triumphant.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like what we need to be careful of is locking ourselves to our skeuomorphs about how governance can be, because the tool space or the solution space that has been opened up by our tool sets is vast compared to the systems we could work with in the 1700s and 1600s. Last time any people seriously thought about what's the best way we could possibly govern ourselves in practical reality. Practical reality is a bigger space, and we should be careful not to bind it to the metaphors of 1770.
Yeah.
Well, Andrew, you have anything else to say? I see you're getting sleepy.
I was just thinking about, what you were saying, Greg. I know this is a little broader, but I remember on Mises, I think it was a YouTube video, but they were talking about how, like, in Indiana, I think it was, in the 1800s, they were trying to re-regulate math and implement, like,
you say math?
Math, yeah.
Are you talking about the new math? Is this the new math you're talking about?
I can't remember. It was a couple years ago, but like the
I was
legislative body
on the other side of this line. Go ahead. I'll say
no, the legislative body somebody pitched like a new interpretation of what I guess the new math. But
I got into this topic the last time when I was in Indiana working on legislative systems that happened to me across that very piece of history. It's interesting. It's like a kind of deja vu right now because I've had this exact conversation with a guy by the name of Brian. I won't tell his last name. I won't dox him. Hey, Brian, if you're ever watching this, bud.
Brian's on next.
Yeah, he was a really gifted front end engineer who worked for the state of Indiana when I was there. That guy could solve really complex problems with systems that had to be active. Like he was the kind of guy who'd wake up at 3 a.m. and work until 5 if it needed to happen. It's really good guy.
That's
yeah,
dedication right there.
keeping going on the topic though.
Oh, was this the new pie bill?
That might have been it. Yeah, that's like I said, it was like
Oh,
new
1800s
pie?
or something like.
Yeah, the
What was that?
1897 new pie bill.
We're thinking two
The
different ones.
Indiana State Legislature considered a House Bill number 246. It was introduced by, at the time, I guess, Representative Taylor I. Record. What a
Were
name.
they changing the number
Which
of sick
ain't-
pigs or something?
It aimed to legally define the value of pi as 3.2.
Ah,
So I guess they were,
what?
yeah,
No.
3.2. And
What was that? Was that guy trying to run like the know nothings of the anti-math department movement at the time or something?
I mean,
Because
it sounds
that's
like
bad math.
it sounds like
3.2 would have made
it was
like
referred
satellites
to
not
the
launch.
what would be the Committee of Temperance,
Oh
because
my
that's where it
god!
was referred to.
Here I
That's
thought it was going to be something
1800s, so-
smart.
Nope,
I'm
no, I
still
think it has
I'm still in the
something to do with
replace pie
alcohol.
with tar camp myself.
Hmm.
Tar
I'm willing
is,
to
is
replace
2 pi,
tar.
by the way.
Hmm.
So you have to divide pi all the time to work with it.
Yeah. So
Not
why
like
not just
literal
make
pi,
it
right?
2?
Right. So if you did 2 pi as ta, then 1
Mhm.
ta would be the starting point for most. And when you needed to divide, you could symbolize it. Then you could use 1 over ta instead of doing the math directly. It makes like all of the kind of calculations you do in basic geometry with pi way
Mhm.
easier. If they did that, like you probably actually save on compute globally. Like the amount of energy we actually expend on compute would probably drop a tiny bit.
Well,
Noticeable.
computers back then were very, 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 very out of context.
They didn't exist.
for us to-
Oh,
yeah.
it existed. That's
I
an
mean,
interesting
they
Oh,
had
they
computers,
existed.
the little key card thing with the holes in it that you would just blow
Oh,
air
they-
through it or whatever.
They existed even
Mhm.
before that.
No, they did actually.
Yeah, there's the Urticarium
They
machine.
existed.
And then if you want to go to like the apocryphal beginning of computing here, right? There's Babbage. His idea was to take concepts from the
Really?
Jacquard loom and build something called an analysis engine, which was the first.
If you
physical-
really want to go down the rabbit hole and go further, you'll go back to
Abacus.
Sumeria
It's true.
and Egypt as well.
Yep. Actually, the first likely computer we ever had was a stick because we probably broke it in half.
Probably. But I mean, like, was
So
it?
you can count the
I think it
breaks.
was
You can count the breaks in a
Mhm.
read, right? Or a knot.
Well,
Knots
I
were
think
probably
like
really popular.
didn't ancient Egypt at one point have like the very first like calculator?
Right. Well, computers are misunderstood, right? They're not
Yeah.
really doing computation so much as they are calculating the difference between states and then making transitions in memory, right? So they're state machines. A state machine is a thing that stores an input when you give it to it, and then you can get it back out later in a useful form, right? So if you want to count something in a way that stays stored, you can, like get a rope and tie a number of knots for the number of bushels of corn that are actually in this barrel.
Mhm.
And then you can tie it to the barrel, and then when somebody comes by, they can just feel the knots and know how much corn is in there, right? That's a computer. That's a state machine. The neat thing about a general state machine is it can be reprogrammed without reconfiguring physical reality,
Mhm.
right? That's ultimately what a computer really is. They shouldn't call them computers. They should call them state machines.
I still think
Hmm.
Abacus is probably the best one you can go to when you
Yeah.
talk about the history of your computer.
My favorite abacus is the big Snapple abacus from the 90s commercials. I still can't forget. Fuck you, memory.
Yeah, but wouldn't you rather have an automaton to do all your chores?
Damn right I would. I make a much better
Yes.
supervisor than I make a worker. It's
It's,
true of all humans. That is true of
yeah.
all humans. There's
That is
nobody who
true,
can't be
actually.
promoted to supervisor and feel more capable at it than doer. Guaranteed. The neat thing is it used to be unethical to have doers that you didn't pay. And we're
Bye,
about to live
William.
in a world where that didn't
Thank you very
happen.
much.
Thank you, William.
Yeah.
I'm the retard of the group.
No. There's no retards in here. Goes for the audience. If you're watching this,
Eh.
you're smart enough to watch it.
Oh, we're all retards, everybody. We're dangerous retards. We're so intelligent. We're
Did you
retarded.
guys ever watch? So you just speaking of my memories, fucking me with remembering random things all the time. Did you guys ever watch Drawn Together?
A long time
Oh,
ago.
Show, but-
it's been a long time. Yeah.
My favorite all time episode of that was the episode where they had the cereal mascot conspiracy.
Mm.
Hmm.
Yeah, and in that episode, one of the candidates for the new mascot position after they murdered quackers was the dangerous retard flakes, dangerous retard, who they elected to pick because he was going to kill them all if they he was because he was a dangerous retard, right? So they ended up going with dangerous retard flakes in the end because he kind of had them by the way too tight hug.
What a flex.
What exactly?
There you go. That's what it's like to live in. You guys now have a little bit of a picture of what it's like to live in my brain. Somebody says something, and I get a cascade where a stupid TV episode replays from a show that's like
Right.
You said Drawn Together, and the only thing in my brain right now was I was watching. Can't articulate what episode it was, but I was in the middle of an episode of Adventure Time.
Oh yeah, great show.
Oh, also a good show, yeah. Well, and Andrew, anything else? We've gone 2 hours and 40 minutes. Should we go further?
Well,
I mean,
let's
that's
go
fine.
further, but let's go again because I actually have a backlog of calls that I did just realize that I scheduled this on my calendar to end.
We got to complete the trilogy.
6 minutes ago, and I have people demanding my attention.
So we get to complete a trilogy then.
Yes.
Yes.
That sounds good to me.
That
Is there
does
anything
sound
we want to
good.
like specifically try to focus on for next week, or do we want to maybe try? Do you think people would like us to try to structure it more, or is the wide-ranging thing that we're doing
Well,
just freeform working? Do you think?
The freeform, I think it's freeform's working, but we did kind of talk about going to the Genius Act the other day
Oh yeah.
when we was doing
Oh
this. So
sure.
we'll try
You
to
know what?
cover that.
Yeah, for sure.
Not right now.
And yeah, for sure. We can definitely hit it next time. And actually, wait, let's real quick come up with some homework for the readers out there. I think we should really, really right now pay attention to privacy. So if anybody hasn't read it and wants to go for it, read chapter 9 or chapter 8 about privacy. And we can talk about that one a lot more because it's kind of an edge case chapter. I actually built it into the book as an afterthought. It wasn't in originally. And then I started thinking about it and was like, well, I know it doesn't fit my case study structure, but if you want to understand the Basilisk effect fully, you need to understand what privacy does to fight it. And that's what chapter 8 is about. It's also, by the way, the biggest, longest, meatiest chapter. So if you can make it through 8, you've read the hardest thing in the book and you should go ahead and read the rest.
Pretty much.
It's a good idea.
DM Greg at Design Heretic and ask for your copy of All Zero.
Yep. You don't have to wait for my permission. It's permissionlessly available at the top of my feed. You can click
Oh,
on
you don't even have to.
If you click on the audio
Even better.
book, like just don't click on the video, click on the tweet that encompasses it so you can see the stuff underneath it. And the first comment underneath it, or I think it's the first comment anyway, is me sharing a link to LimeWire, which includes all of the files you need. So like it's the audio in MP3 plus PDF plus EPUB, and you can just download them, and then they're yours. So you don't even have to
Sweet.
DM me or ask for permission; they're just there. Well, cool.
So, all right.
I hope everybody does their homework. I don't anticipate you will,
Right.
but and if you don't, that's great. Still come, but if you do, I look forward.
What's wrong with nerding out?
So head over to Design Heretic and click the link in the pinned tweet.
Yep.
At the very top of the page. So do your homework. I'm gonna redo chapter 8 and chapter 9 myself actually for actual homework. So
Well,
anything
guys,
else?
It's been so awesome talking to you all. I love the the level of intellectual engagement we get here. The way it happens, the vibe of it. It's super chill. but it's not shy on detail, and it doesn't apologize for trying to be useful to people, which I really deeply appreciate. And the audience, you guys, awesome questions, awesome comments. Like, it's one of my favorite places to come hang out and talk because everybody here is so thoughtful. So,
thank you.
You know, like being in this room, I'm gracious for it. Thank you.
Right.
Well, thank you for coming on twice now the last couple of weeks, Greg. So,
Anytime,
Andrew, you have anything else?
I mean, I'm looking forward to completing the trilogy. So let's get to this, man.
Rock and roll.
The trilogy
guys.
completes next Friday.
I so have to jump and go make phone calls, so I'm so sorry, but I have to dock.
That's all right, man.
We'll do.
But I
That's
will
all
catch
right.
you later.
Thank you.
It is Friday.
Cheers.
So,
See ya.
and Andrew, should we
Yep.
should we Irish exit it?
No, I gotta go with the wrestling gimmick.
You're.
I know. I got a problem.
You have a problem. Have a good day, everybody. We'll be back on Monday for Legacy News.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Den.social. I'd like to welcome you to WCW Nitro.
You know, brother, you think you've got what it takes to beat Hollywood Hogan once you climb in the ring and try out the largest arms in the world. Holy style.
You want to wrestle an inch more Ric Flair, you gotta be able to walk that out and style and profile. Woo! You really think you're ready for the spin? You really think you're ready for the Scorpion Deathlock? You think you're ready for a fatal encounter?
This is why they call me the total package. Do you have a pain threshold to withstand the butcher rack? Let's find out.
Hallo, hier ist Alex Wright. Wenn ihr High-Flying Wrestling Action wollt, Spinning Sidekick, Top Turnbuckle Dropkick, dann nehmt mich. Der Sieg ist euch sicher. Versprecht euch.
Oh yeah! Watch the flying elbow drop off the top rope. Not only beat people 1, 2, 3, but I hurt him real bad. It only takes one of 1,000 holds. I think you're man enough for the challenge. You better be ready to wrestle, because you know when you're getting in the ring with Eddie Guerrero, it's going to be high-flying and exciting. Hey, anytime you feel foggy, man, I'll slap on the buzz killer and rip your shoulder right out of socket. Wolfpack style! Hey, funky boy. Like there's a choice here? Good God! Pick the man with the plan. Pick DDP. Hey, all you suckers out there. You wanna play the game? You wanna play with the big boy? Put your feet on the button, cause when you go down 110th Street, it's gonna be on like neck bone, sucker.
This is Booker T from Harlem Heat, hardcore OG brother from 110th Street. The minute you pump, got the guts to step up to the plate, push the button.
Yo, Chico, you selected Scott Hall? Get ready for a wild ride on the outside. Hey there! How'd you like to get power bomb? Come on, pick me. I'm begging you, pick me. Please pick me.
You think you got the courage to step in the ring? I think you're gonna wind up with a snap neck with a choke slam.
Technical wrestler, high flyer, brawler. Don't matter what you consider yourself to be. When you're in the ring with the crippler, you're a loser.